The conclusion to round 11 brings us to Adelaide Oval for the culmination of a brilliant fortnight celebrating Indigenous players and culture. It's Port Adelaide hosting Essendon, and with both sides battling to keep their seasons alive, some big names are making their return this afternoon. Spearheads Charlie Dixon and Harrison Jones playing their first games of the season. Riley Bonner and Jordan Ridley also returning to the 22 for either side. Aaron Bryant's with you to call the action, and alongside me is Neil Cross. Welcome, Crossy.
Aaron, good to be here. And what are we going to get this afternoon? It's another one of those matches that we've seen a lot of this season where you just don't know. Essendon, I didn't think they'd have only 2 wins at this stage of the season. We're nearly halfway through. Port Adelaide, to sit 4 and 6, they'd be disappointed at this stage. Be very, very interesting afternoon.
The result isn't the most unpredictable part about this game as well. The weather's looking pretty dodgy. We've got a storm that's likely to hit at bounce down. Poor Liz Walsh downstairs is all rugged up and ready to go. We'll check in with her very shortly. But firstly, let's touch on with our experts, Carlton Premiership player Scott Camporelli is back in the box. Welcome, Campo.
Thanks, Aaron, Crossy, Steve. Good to be back. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. I mean, Port Adelaide, their contested ball issues reared its ugly head again last week, and the Bombers aren't great in that category. And with the wet weather, it's going to be an interesting who can actually get on top in that category to get the ball in their front half.
We've got a Port Adelaide great in the box with us as well as he watches his side, the Power, take on the Bombers, Port Magpies Premiership player and coach Stephen Williams. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, lovely to be here. Best wishes to Gemmo. We know he's home with a bit of flu, so thanks, Gemmo. I'm happy to come in and sub for you today. But
man flu, Steve?
A bit of man flu. I think it might be. Yeah. But the boys are missing your chips too, Gemmo, I hear. So get well soon. But no, looking forward to a good game. The weather, we heard it's going to be wet at some stage, but pretty good at the moment. So both sides need a win. Port, after a bad start, 4 in a row. Disappointing down at Geelong last week, so they'll be looking to bounce back today.
Plenty of footy so far today. So the Saints defeating North Melbourne by 53 points. There's a game on at the MCG at the moment. Collingwood leading Carlton early in the second term, 4-7-31 to 2-2-14. So a 17-point margin to the Pies. A couple of goals to Elliott, Sidebottom, and Will Hoskin-Elliott for the Blues. Just Durden and Curnow. Jacob Wiedering's also out of the game with a shoulder injury, which is a concern. There's some women's footy as well over at Norwood Oval across town. North Adelaide playing Sturt in the Sandford W Grand Final. At the moment, the home side leading by 4 points in the final quarter, 5-4-34 to 4-6-30. So it's going to be a thriller there at Norwood. Hopefully we see the same here at Adelaide Oval this afternoon. We'll check in with both camps very shortly. I did just want to touch on Charlie Dixon's return though, Campo. It's such a big news and announcement for the home side. They've been waiting for this all year, but it disrupts what has been a really good and working forward line. So Mitch Georgiadis misses out this afternoon. It's going to be wet weather footy as well, and we're not really sure what Charlie can put out there. Are they just going to stick him in the goal square, or is he ready to go? There's a lot of questions. What are you expecting?
I think we can't expect a world from him. He's missed a lot of footy and hasn't played a lot as well. So he's had a limited pre-season, tried to get going again, then had surgery, comes back in. He's played 2 Sandford games, to be fair, and we know that the Sandford competition's a great competition, but it's nowhere near the intensity that we play at the AFL level. So, they obviously dropped Georgiades. He wasn't in great form. I think they've probably made the right decision there, ultimately, in the end. But if I was Ken, I'd be putting him in the goal square. Put him deep. Don't let him get up the ground. He doesn't need... Marshall's been actually okay up the ground. I think he can work his guys over, gets them up, turns them around. He's quite athletic, and we've seen some improvement and some consistency in that part of his game. But what he does in these wet conditions, if it does, Steve, he's not going to get any shorter. So if they can, under pressure, if it is a territory game and they can get it in there, then you got guys like Butters and Rosie and Gray and these sort of small brigade that can actually feed off him. He won't get outmarked, we know that. But let's just keep him in the goal square, give that Essendon defender, whoever that may be, something to deal with. And if he happens to clunk a couple, beautiful. If he doesn't, you sort of just get him away from the action as well, and give those, as I said, those smaller forwards an opportunity when it hits the ground.
Yeah, and there's a fair chance he'll draw the best defender too. So Jordan Ridley back in the game today. So whether he goes to Dixon, which all of a sudden gives the opportunity for Marshall and Finlayson maybe to get off the chain a little bit. So, the fact that Port don't play next week, probably Ken had no alternative but to get him in, to get some AFL game time under his belt. And, if he could hit the scoreboard, kick a couple of goals for Port today, he's done his job.
The voices of Stephen Williams, Scott Camporelli. 2 changes for the Power confirmed, so no late changes for the game overall. Dixon, Bonner back. Lockie Jones omitted. He's going to be the medical sub. Also, Mitch Georgiadis omitted. For the Bombers, 4 changes for them. So Andrew Phillips, Harrison Jones playing his first game. Jordan Ridley out of COVID protocols. Jai Caldwell back from injury as well. Aaron Francis omitted. Mason Redmond suspended. Matt Guelphy injured. And Nick Bryan dropped as well. For the visitors. Let's check in downstairs with the home side, Port Adelaide. Liz Walsh is downstairs at their race.
Thanks, Aaron. I'm down here with Tyson Goldsack, the Power's defensive development coach. Tyson, thanks for joining me.
No worries.
A fan favourite returns today. Charlie Dixon's back. How's he feeling? What's he going to bring to the team this afternoon?
I hope he's feeling good. He's looked good. The first week back at NFL, he was a little bit shaky. He's just kind of, blowing out the cobwebs. But then last week, up at Loxton, he looked really good. He was getting manhandled a little bit, extra defender behind the ball, but he was strong, meeting the ball well and kicking it well. So he's up and about and he's ready to go.
Is he nervous at all?
I wouldn't have thought so. No, he's done the work, and he loves playing on the big stage, and here he is again. So hopefully it's just good signs for the rest of the year for him.
Yeah. The last time Port played Essendon, round 2 last year, Dixon kicked 4 goals. He comes in at the expense of Mitch Georgiadis. Can you talk us through that selection decision? Yeah,
I can. I mean, it wasn't... Charlie was ready to come in. Mitch hasn't exactly set the world on fire this year. That's no secret. And we're at a position now where we're not scratching around for players to play, so we can actually play players that are in form, which is a nice position to be in. So Charlie gets his go. Mitch played yesterday and showed some good signs, so it's a nice bit of competition.
The conditions are most likely going to be difficult. It's not too bad at the moment, but the storm looks like it's going to hit right at Bouncedown.
Perfect.
How do you prepare for that?
Well, we actually prepared for wet weather all week. So when I woke up this morning, I was like, oh, that'll be right. We prepared 7 days for wet weather, and we've got a beautiful day in Adelaide. But yeah, like you said, it's pending the rain, so we can go either way. We play really good dry weather footy, but so do Essendon. But we know our conscience is strong, so if it rains, we're ready for it.
How do you actually prepare for wet weather? How do you spend all week preparing for that?
It's more game plan style stuff and mindset. You can't really turn the sprinklers on at your home ground and train in the conditions, but it's more, get ready for this type of game. This is how we'll play, and if it changes, well, you just revert back to your normal stock.
Excellent. Let's head up to our experts in Scott Camporelli and Stephen Williams.
Guys, good luck today. You touched on your contest part of the game, and I guess if it does come in wet, but again last week it reared its ugly head. When you didn't quite get that done, it put yourself in a vulnerable position. Obviously Essendon aren't top of the pops in terms of that category either. Is that something that you really dial in today?
Yeah, unfortunately it's something we tried to dial in last week as well. And when we haven't got it right, and there was games last year where we didn't get it right and it really cost us. So we know it's important to our game, but we know speed on the outside is also pretty important and exciting for the crowd. So we'll focus a lot on contests, and we have this week. We get that right and it goes a long way towards winning the game.
And I guess on the flip side to that, we love the old Port Adelaide way in terms of being able to keep the ball off the opposition. If it does come in wet, I mean, you're the number 1 uncontested mark team in the competition. Do you go a little bit more direct now Charlie's there?
Is definitely a target, isn't he, to go to? And we had lacked targets early in the year, but then our tall forwards were providing good contests for the last 4 or 5 weeks. So we know that if Charlie isn't there and he's on the other side of the ground, we can still go to Jeremy Finlayson or Todd Marshall. So we have the targets there, which is a blessing for us now. So yeah, like you said, if it gets wet, a bit more direct, a bit more take territory, which we know teams do. But if it's dry like this, let's take the game on and explore a little bit more.
And I guess your defence has held up really well, probably since the last half a dozen weeks, but you're still struggling to score. You're about 20 or 30 points off where you were last year. Any real reason for that?
Oh, no real reason, other than perhaps a little bit of personnel, but we are trending in the right direction. So start of the year we were struggling quite badly to hit the scoreboard, still defending okay, and everything's starting to tighten up behind the ball, and we're moving the ball with a bit more freedom now. And some targets and some forwards are playing their part. So, like I said, trending the right way, and hopefully we continue that today.
Yeah, Tyson, you're talking about probably not kicking as much of a score as you did last year. Just looking at the statistics, number 18 for scoring accuracy, so that's probably one of the reasons. Do you do a lot of work on that? It's a fairly underrated statistic because at the end of the day, normally the side that kicks straighter wins a game.
Yeah, and the statistics, I mean, you can look into a lot of things with it. Are we entering the front 50 in the same manner as we were last year with the same speed and hitting the same areas, or are we going a little bit slower and wider, which is making it hard for the forwards? It's hard to draw, lines between a lot of stats, but I mean, if you kick straighter than what we have been, that'll help. But also moving the ball a little bit quicker with a little bit more freedom and targeting in front of the goals, that'll help the forwards convert.
And Boki's been spending a fair bit more time across the half-forward line rather than through the middle. Is that just the fact that you want to get Butters and Rosie in there and develop them, and Trav sort of pays the price a little bit for that?
Less about developing them, but more about giving them opportunities to showcase their skills and their speed. You have Ollie Wines in there and Willem Drew, and Boki's still got good speed, but the other guys are a little bit more harder around the ball and not so quick as Butters and Rose. I don't think they mind me saying that. So we just kind of try to energise the inside mids a little bit more. Trav can work into the midfield and then work forward for us and give us options, which is an asset for us.
Power development coach Tyson Goldsack is our guest on Grandstand AFL. Tyson, Aaron Bryan's here. Lockie Jones missing out on the 22 this week. Unfortunately, he designed the Guernsey you'll be wearing as part of Sir Doug Nicholls' round. What was the conversation like when you had to let him go this week?
I didn't have to make that conversation, thankfully. He's aware of where he needs to work on his game, so it's a little bit of cleanliness around the ball. His attack on the ball is elite and his hardness is elite, but it's just a little bit more polished when he gets those opportunities and making sure that he can impact the game in the right way. He's not blinded by the call, so he can go away and work on his game a little bit more and hopefully improve over the next few weeks and get back in the team.
And to get Riley Bonner back, that's probably the direct switch, the fact that he's gone out for Riley Bonner, and Riley was in fantastic form until he hurt that ankle, so to have him back out there, his ability to distribute the ball coming out the back half will be a big asset today. Yeah,
it helps a lot. You talk about the uncontested marks that we've been able to do over the course of the year, and Riley helps us a lot with that. We might miss a little bit of speed and the contest hardness that Lockie Jones has, but once we win the ball and get it in his hands, he's pretty damaging.
Got the bye next week as well, Tyson. Is there anything that you kind of want to just finally work out before the break?
Not before the break. Let's just get through this game and then we can assess that. We play kind of Thursday week, so it's not your full 2 weeks, but it's enough to freshen the guys up more so than anything, and the coach has been reviewing week by week, so it's not quite halfway through the year yet, but we're just about there, and we'll review when we need to.
Tyson, thank you so much for your time and best of luck this afternoon.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
The voice of Port Adelaide development coach Tyson Goldsack downstairs with Liz Walsh. Great to have him ahead of Port Adelaide and Essendon round 11 action on Grandstand AFL. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Stephen Williams, Scott Camporelli with you as well. Bit of wet weather on its way. Still a couple of hours off, hopefully, as we look ahead to bounce down for this game. Our score check over at the MCG, all level between Collingwood and Carlton, 4-8-32 the Pies. The Blues 5-2-32. Jacob Wiedering out of the game with a shoulder injury there as well. And great to see the participants of the Aboriginal Power Cup, the program through the Port Adelaide Football Club, getting the chance to celebrate out on the Adelaide Oval ahead of bounce down. They did a nice little performance, put up a couple of cloths to represent the Indigenous flag in the middle, and got to dance their way off the Oval as well. It's an incredible program, Stephen. They've had up to 550 students this year now, so they continue to expand. A 96% success rate with those students in terms of getting at least, I think it's somewhere between 70 and 80% attendance and at least a C+ grade at school. So remarkable what Port Adelaide continue to do in the community.
Yeah, they have. They've been leaders in doing that at Port Adelaide, and they're very proud of their Indigenous heritage and the work that they do with the young Indigenous people around South Australia, and it's been fantastic to see, and it was wonderful to see the occasion here today. So looking forward to a really exciting game and a great way to start it off.
The text line, if you'd like to get in touch across the afternoon, we'll be sharing it with Melbourne until they join us after the MCG game. 0437 774 774. That's 0437 774 774. We should touch on the Bombers a bit with Blake Carosello to join us very shortly. Harrison Jones getting selected for his first game, a similar story to Charlie Dixon in that they finally get their spearhead up forward. The Bombers haven't really been great at kicking a big score. I'm not sure throwing the kid in is going to be the immediate answer, but hopefully it helps their structure a bit, Campo.
Yeah, well, they have been pretty reliant on Peter, big 2-metre Peter. I mean, he's number 2 score involvement in the AFL, so they do go to him a fair bit, obviously, but they've really struggled this year, the Bombers, on both sides of the ball and also around the contest. I mean, they're ranked 16th for contested possession, 17th for ground ball, so they're not getting their hands dirty. They don't really want to tackle either. They're not a great tackling team. They're giving up over 100 points a game defensively, which is strange, having known Ben Rutten. He's a fullback, dour defender. You'd think he'd value that, but I'm not sure, what's going on in terms of that. There's no pressure on the ball from the games that I've seen. And also offensively, they're ranked 16th for points for in a game. So really, where they sit on the ladder is where they deserve to be at this point in time. So it's going to be an interesting afternoon whether they can rectify one or two of those areas to get the job done.
And they've got some talent, haven't they, through that midfield area when you look at the names. And bringing Andrew Phillips back in, him and Draper, they may be able to get some ascendancy in the ruck there. Sam Hayes is only young and just learning his trade, and he's probably Finlayson's the back up there. So the Bombers probably have the edge in that sort of area, so that'll be interesting to see whether they can get first look at the ball through their mid, through that work of their big men. It's
such a dramatic drop, though, from their form of last year to where they are this season. And obviously, you work on your game plan in pre-season. It's hard to really alter a lot of it through the year. But to have such a lack of pressure, as you touched on, Steve, there's got to be something going on internally where obviously the structure isn't working defending through the corridor. That's fine. They can probably fix that later on. But personally with their players and mentally, there's just no intensity. And they showed a little bit against Richmond last week after being scrutinised by the media. But a lot of it was just after something had happened. It wasn't so much in the general gameplay.
Yeah, we saw them fall over the line against Adelaide, and they had that remarkable comeback against Hawthorn for their only 2 wins. So the best is exciting, and it looks pretty good to sit here and watch. But they're just not delivering, are they? They're not consistent throughout games or even throughout quarters. So has to start somewhere. Whether Ben Rutten can get something going today, it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, well, it looks like it's a really uncontested style of game that they've gone to. I mean, I know Kara's there from Richmond and Truck was obviously there as well, but you can't, and I'm a big believer of this, you can't just grab someone's game plan and just come and implement it at another club. You need to find what your DNA is of the group and the list that you've got. Yeah, you can take some of those elements out of it and try and mould it, but they're running handball, they're over handballing. If they over handball today, that's fraught with danger because Port Adelaide are the second best pressure team in the competition. So if they want to flick it around and you watch those games, Parrish, Shields, Merritt, McGrath, these guys that just start flicking it around all the time, Port Adelaide are going to put them under pressure, and and if it does come in wet, field position is gold today. So if you get it deep in your forward 50, there's no dry conditions where you can actually bank on, run and carry or uncontested mark chains, because it's not that type of day if the weather does come in. So it doesn't look great for Essendon, but, if I was Ben Rutten, focus in on really, and we'll hear from Blake, but you can see that Port Adelaide's Achilles heel is their contested possession. So go after something and say, this is what we're going to stand for today, and let's see what happens after that.
So, Campo, you're saying after 10 weeks of footy where everyone can clearly see that Essendon aren't playing a contested game, it's not the players mentally not wanting to apply pressure because they know they'd be at fault after hearing everything, all the noise surrounding it. It's the game plan that maybe want to play or have a lot of players on the outside and try and receive an easy footy because no one wants to go in and get it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd be staggered if Ben Rutten's standing there saying we don't value contested possession. I mean, the only team that perhaps I've seen over the journey is Hawthorn that's been able to do that, and a little bit around Richmond. But what Richmond do is they punish you on turnover, so they structure the ground up really well that they can counter-attack, and I can see a little bit of that in Essendon, what they're trying to do, but they don't have Grimes, they don't have, Broad, they don't have those guys, short, coming off half-back and the pressure through the midfield, and also key forwards like Lynch and Rewalt forward, and that's the challenge, I think. So it's not that I don't think they're valuing it or that Ben Rutten and the coaching group aren't heightening the expectation around that and what needs to be done. I just think they're just not executing for whatever reason.
And I'd like to see their mids, the likes of Parrish and Shield in particular. They're guys that have got real leg speed that can get the ball. Like Dylan Shield's a terrific. If you think back to his work at the Giants, he was able to get the ball and meters game were up in the 500, 600, 700 a game. But some games now he's doing 100 because he's just handballing the ball. So
well, that looks like they're going sideways too, Steve, don't they? They kick it sideways, they handball sideways. There's not a direct avenue to it, and maybe it is because they not have the forward structure that they're perhaps looking at, and they're trying to find a different avenue towards goal.
Let's check in with the Bombers and see how they are feeling ahead of bounce down. Liz Walsh has made her way over to the Essendon race and is with Blake Caracella.
Thanks, Aaron. I'm down here with Bombers assistant coach Blake Caracella. Blake, you head in with 4 changes today. Harry Jones returns. What will he bring to your forward line?
Yeah, a real aerial threat. Third-year player, I believe, now. A real breakout year last year. Looking forward to him taking a few marks if the rain doesn't come. If it does come, he needs to bring the ball to ground and hopefully go to work on the ground as well.
It's perhaps a nice little bow on the game that Tex Wanganeen is playing his first ever interstate game at the Adelaide Oval in front of Port fans and in the shades of the Gavin Wanganeen stand over there. He's only 5 games into his AFL career, but what are you making of him so far?
Yeah, no, it's been an interesting 12 months for Tex. He came over training pre-season, wasn't on a list and trained really well, and we thought he had the potential to become a good player, and he shows that in moments. He's played 5 games, he's young, he's exciting, he's quick, he likes to tackle, he likes to win ground balls inside forward 50, and potentially today might be a real game for him.
Charlie Dixon returns for Port. How are you planning to tackle him today?
Yeah, no, he's an aerial threat down the other end. Jones is coming in, and we've got Peter Wright down our end, and Charlie Dixon's played some amazing footy for Port over a long period of time, and we need to make sure he doesn't mark the ball because he can get on a run and kick a lot of goals. So ideally the ball doesn't get down there, but Porter shows some good form recently, and they get the ball inside forward 50, and hopefully we can stop him.
It goes without saying you probably need the win. We do need the win. What's it actually going to take to beat Port today?
Yeah, Port, their contested ball is really good. When they win, they win the ball, they blitz the footy really hard. Their pressure around the contest is extremely good, and we need to manage that. We haven't really done that well this season so far, so it's a real test for us. But the teams that have beaten Port so far this year, they've managed to beat Port with that contested ball around the contest. Geelong got on top of them last week in the second half, so it's a challenge for us, but hopefully our boys are up for it.
I went through the history books, and Essendon has only played at the Adelaide Oval 10 times in your history, but your new defender, Jake Kelly, he's actually played here 59 times with the Crows. Do you draw on that experience, and how's he fitting into the side this year?
No, we haven't drawn on that experience. I didn't know that stat, but obviously he's played a lot of footy at Adelaide. He's fit in really well. He's a really good person. He's been here for 6 or 9 months now, and he's fitted in down back. Plays a role for us down there. Who he plays on today, not too sure. Might get Robbie Gray during the game. So, but once again, it's a team effort to defend, and it probably gets back to the contest up the ground. And if our mids can get more of the ball and get the ball up our end.
Thanks, Blake. All the best today.
Okay, thank you. Cheers.
Great to have Bombers assistant Blake Caracella downstairs as the Port Adelaide Football Club make their way out onto the Adelaide Oval. It's Port Adelaide and Essendon round 11 action on Grandstand AFL. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Stephen Williams, Scott Camporelli with you. We're still about 15 minutes away from bounce down. Plenty of time to break down how this game is going to play out. Just quickly though, I did want to touch on Jake Kelly, as Liz just mentioned, to Blake Caracella. He's actually had a pretty significant dip in form this season now that he's gone over to the Bombers. So last year he has had a 20% loss one-on-one in contest. He's up to 42% this year. So barely getting over his opponent inside defensive 50.
And why do you think that's happening, Aaron?
I imagine it's because there's a surge of good footy coming in. It's not exactly him personally, but
correct.
But clearly that backline isn't clicking very well.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, that's an individual stat, unfortunately, but as we all know, Steve, it's team defence. So if there's no pressure on the ball, and we've already highlighted that, if it's especially at this level, if there's no pressure on the ball up the field, those defenders can be hung out to dry pretty easily. But and what happens is, as you know, once it comes in with a bit of speed, and I've coached Jake, and a wonderful young man, super competitive, wants to win, wants to do everything he possibly can, but when you're under that sort of pressure, you grab, you scrag, and all of a sudden the umpires now, they look for any, tug of the jumper, and unfortunately that has been a bit of an Achilles heel for Jake over his journey. So that's probably why, Aaron, unfortunately. But he just probably got every right to walk up there at a few centre bounces and say, hang on, you blokes, any chance that maybe you, Dylan, or Zach Merritt want to come down here in the cage? Because if he does get Robbie Gray, and he has played on Robbie Gray before, he can beat you one-on-one very, very easily, Robbie, if there's no pressure on the ball. So he's probably going to be in for a long afternoon, and probably would hope, Steve, that it might come in a little wet.
Yes, that's a backman's friend, isn't it? Torrential rain, but it's overcast at the moment. But yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to rain for a while. So hopefully we'll get at least a half a footy in the dry and see what both sides can do.
The text line, if you'd like to get in touch, 0437 774 774. Dave from Morphettville says, hi Aaron, the Crows let us down badly yesterday, but I'm hoping Port Adelaide can kick straight and tackle accurately and stay in front to win. We want nothing else but a win. It's a pretty desperate stage for Dave and the Port Adelaide supporters with the bye coming up next week. The loss to Geelong last week unfortunately just puts them back again in that ledger, 4 and 6. They're just a little bit away from getting into contention to the top 8, so they need to win what is a winnable game against the Bombers today. Unfortunately, against the Cats, Steve, they looked really good for a half, but I think a little bit of it was Geelong just not hitting targets. And then once half-time and the half-time siren sounded and everything got back underway, Geelong just ran over them in the middle, which was surprising because Dangerfield didn't have a big game either, but at times Port Adelaide's lack of depth there just gets exposed.
It does, doesn't it? And that's an area that is going to be a keen focus today. You'd think if the conditions do get wet, the likes of Ollie Wines and Travis Boak in particular, big strong bodies that can win that ball and get it moving Port Adelaide's way. But I think it was minus 29 for contested possession for the game against the Cats. So if they put out that sort of statistic today, they'll be behind at the end of the game as well. So we know that that's almost the key indicator. Port Adelaide win the contested footy, they normally win the game. So I'm sure there's been a focus on that from Ken Hinkley and from all the coaches this week, that that's an area they have to get down to get their knees dirty and start to work hard and win that ball in close.
No late changes for this contest, so Lockie Jones, Braden Ham, the subs for both Port Adelaide and the Bombers. Over at the MCG, half-time there, Carlton leading Collingwood by 6 points, 6-2-38 to 4-8-32. In terms of the goal scorers, Charlie Curnow has 2 singles to Chera, Cripps, DeGoey, Durden, Elliott, Henry and Sidebottom. And Jacob Wiedering is out of the game with a shoulder injury after a collision with Jordan DeGoey. Full-time in the Sandford W Grand Final at Norwood Oval as well. Congratulations to North Adelaide. The Roosters winning by 18 points, 7-6-48 to 4-6-30. Jay DeMelo had 3 goals for what was the home side in the grand final. Megan Ryan had 1 as well, alongside Ewings, Tab and Hansen. Just the 2 individual goal kickers for Sturt. Ryder had 2 alongside Rashid, who also had 2. So North Adelaide winners by 18 points, 7-6-48 to 4-6-30. Coming up shortly, round 11 action on Grandstand AFL. It's Port Adelaide and Essendon on ABC Radio and Sport Digital.
Did you know that ABC Listen has a little sibling?
Hi.
The ABC Kids Listen app, with music to move and podcasts to play. ABC Kids Listen stimulates curiosity, fires imaginations, and fosters good listening skills.
Wow! That's a funny noise.
Discover a world of entertainment that will spark creativity in the minds of your little ones and get them up and moving. Download ABC Kids Listen today, free from your app store.
The Sir Doug Nicholls round.
Hand pass to the runner, Franklin in full flight, Buddy, unguarded goal square, got it. That's exactly what that man can do. The ultimate entertainer.
This is Sir Doug Nicholls round.
Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Welcome to the Adelaide Oval for the conclusion of Sir Doug Nicholls' Indigenous round. Port Adelaide hosting Essendon. The Power 4 and 6, the Bombers 2 and 8. No late changes for this contest. Charlie Dixon, Harrison Jones, both back for their respective sides, and weather coming in very shortly. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Stephen Williams, Scott Camporelli and Liz Walsh with you. The text line as well across the afternoon, 0437 774 774. Half-time at the MCG. The Blues leading Collingwood by 6 there, 6-2-38 to 4-8-32. And earlier today, St Kilda defeating North Melbourne by 53 points. Port Adelaide in their Indigenous Guernsey this afternoon, and good news for Lockie Jones, who does make his way back into the 23 at least as a medical sub, because he designed it for the Port Adelaide Football Club alongside his auntie. It's actually designed to celebrate his journey about discovering his Aboriginal heritage and the life and legacy of his grandmother. So it features a brolga, which is his grandmother's totem, footprints, lines and circles representing their journey as a member of the stolen generation his grandmother was. And on the back there, it has the meeting place that represents his grandmother's final resting place. So Port in their Indigenous strip. The Bombers are actually in their red clash strip because unfortunately their Indigenous Guernsey is quite dark as well. So they got to wear it last week at Dreamtime at the G, don't get to wear it at the Adelaide Oval this afternoon, but at least it's pretty easy to differentiate between the two sides who are about to line up for the Welcome to Country, as it's been so good across both rounds of Sir Doug Nicholls' Indigenous round. It's almost a fortnight celebrating Indigenous heritage and culture. The crowd slowly making their way in, still fairly quiet on the outer side, thinking maybe mid 20,000 Crossy. We'll see how we go. Obviously the wet weather doesn't really help, but Port Adelaide's chance at getting closer to the 8 hopefully would motivate the home fans who certainly believe they're still in contention for finals this season. Let's head downstairs for the Welcome to Country Round 11 action on Grandstand AFL. It's Port Adelaide.
This afternoon, we celebrate Sir Doug Nicholls Round, where we acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture and its contribution to Australian football. Please welcome senior Ghana man and past Port Adelaide player, Uncle Mickey O'Brien, accompanied by members of the Kumakaru dance group.
Tuwila Maniputnik, Tuwila Wakanapatnik, Nai Ghana Piako, Makalakala, Marawachanga, Ganamina, Minyana Manipuraji, Nai Nari Kamatpi Marriage, Nai Wangadi Mani Napudni, Ganiatana, Iridiata, Tanden Danga, Kalawira Para, Tanda Wama, Pandu, Yecha, Miyu, Nunyualia Muri. So welcome to today here at the place of the Red Kangaroo, being the Indigenous round of Sir Doug Nicholls and the wonderful game, as we call it, the Possum Skin Football Parndo. And it is wonderful not only to welcome you, to bring good blessings to you all, and to bring these wonderful warriors of the game here today to battle it out. And as an ambassador of the Ghana people, it is my pleasure to do so. And when we come to a place, we say that you are the important people. And so now I would like to call the captains of each of the teams to come over, and also the Indigenous players, to exchange in a wonderful gift of a celebration and ceremony of this wonderful round here at Adelaide Oval.
So Carl Amon alongside Stephen Motlop,
our
Sam
people
Powell-Pepper.
say Nachi Yakandaya Padnia do, which is saying we are all brothers and sisters and let us walk together in harmony. Nudlakul Yadabolti, we are Port Adelaide. Thank you.
Jeremy Finlayson and Tom Jonas meet in the middle with Dyson Heppel and Tex Wanganeen. Ahead of bounce down at the Adelaide Oval for Sir Doug Nicholls' Indigenous round. And I believe that ends proceedings. I think players were waiting for something else to come, but that does us here at the Adelaide Oval. We're about 5 minutes away from bounce down. Aaron Bryan's new across. Scott Camporelli, Stephen Williams with you for round 11 action. No late changes for either side. Charlie Dixon, Riley Bonner in for the power. Lockie Jones omitted to the medical sub alongside Mitch Georgiadis. For the Bombers, 4 changes for them. Phillips, Jones, Ridley, Caldwell in. Francis is out. Redmond suspended. Guelphy injured, and Nick Bryan omitted. Bit of wet weather to come, but at the moment looks pretty clear, at least for the opening quarter, hopefully. Stephen Williams, Scott Camporelli, how do you see it being won and lost this afternoon?
Well, we've touched on it already. I think, the battle of that midfield group is going to be important as to who can get the ascendancy and get the ball in their front half if it does in fact rain, just in terms of getting that field position. Port Adelaide, we know that they like time in possession, they like to chip it around. We've heard Tyson before in the pre-game interview that they've done some strategy around what that might look like. That would suggest that it's going to be a surge mentality, Steve. Normally when coaches and players talk about wet weather footy, it's around not trying to over-possess it. Let's knock it on. Let's get it skidding forward. Let's see if we can turn the opposition defenders and midfielders around. And as we've highlighted, contested possession is one thing that Port Adelaide, and most teams to be fair, Steve, they're not the only ones, but it does highlight Port Adelaide when they win or lose. So this is a big task for Essendon, but I think it's going to be closer than what people might think it might be.
Yeah, I think the Bombers certainly are capable. They get their game up and running, and there's enough quality through the midfield and up forward to kick a winning score. But Port Adelaide, if they can win that ball through the midfield and lock the ball inside their forward 50, they've got the ability to just repeat forward 50 entries. Their defence has been number one in the AFL over the last 4 or 5 weeks. So after that poor 5 weeks of the first 5 of the season, they're able to get back 4-1 after their last 5 games. So they're starting to get back to their DNA, to the game style that we know. They let themselves down in that second half against the Cats last week. So they'll be looking to prove that they can get back. And Alir Ali is a really important player for Port. Not one drop-off mark last week, intercept mark. So that's an area that made him an All-Australian last season. So I'm sure that he'll be looking to be freed up and roam across that Port half-back line and chip the ball, cut the ball off and start those rebounds from his marking possessions.
Ben's messaged in on 0437 774 774 and says, "Hi guys, looking forward to today's call. I'm on the tractor in the Barossa Valley, desperate for rain, but hopefully it holds off till the final siren." So thanks for thinking of us, Ben, but I'm sure you're going to get some. It's just a matter of when.
Rain up there. Make sure
exactly.
The grapes get plenty of water for us up there. Make it a good crop.
It'll make it a tight game as well, I imagine, if it's a bit messy out in the middle. So we'll wait and see, but best of luck to you, Ben. Let's head downstairs because the toss of the coin has just occurred in the middle. Liz Walsh was watching on down at ground level.
Nina Marnie, Aaron from down here at Boundary Side. A Ghana greeting as celebrates Sir Doug Nicholls round at Adelaide Oval. We've just seen some spectacular pre-game Indigenous celebrations on the ground. Looking to the skies, it doesn't seem too bad at the moment, but it looks like it will be far from spectacular later, unless perhaps you're a storm chaser. We're expecting thunderstorms up to 15 mils of rain later this afternoon, and I've looked at the radar and I'm feeling worried for myself and this microphone. The Bombers have won the toss. They'll kick to the northern end of Adelaide Oval. Looking to the benches for Port, Riley Bonner, Jeremy Finlayson, Kane Farrell and Willem Drew will start. Lockie Jones is the Powers medical sub, and for Essendon, Tex Wanganeen, Archie Perkins, Nick Hyndon, Alec Waterman are on the bench, and Braden Ham is the Bombers medical sub.
Steve Campo, your tips ahead of bounce down?
Oh, I think Port Adelaide should get it done. I think it'll be a bit closer than what people think, so probably a 4 to 5 goal margin.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. Port at home, they just can't afford to drop home matches against the 2-win Bombers, so Port for me.
Crossy?
I would say Port Adelaide, but it's a 50-50 for me. You just don't know what's going to happen.
I think we're in unison, unfortunately. Port Adelaide, the favourites, the Bombers, the underdogs, but plenty of factors that could make this a close one. 4 and 6 the Power, 2 and 8 the Bombers. Finals on the line for both. Round 11 action on Grandstand AFL. Neil Cross to kick things off.
Well, Port's won 4 of their past 5 games, and Essendon has only won 10 quarters across 10 games this season. So that's going in. Let's see what happens this afternoon. They'll get first possession, the Bombers, and the first break from the centre through Parrish. Down to half forward, punch away by Burn-Jones. Down to Amon for Port Adelaide, then back through the centre he goes. Mark taken by Hayes. Straight off to Amon, flicks it out to the eastern side of the ground. Half forward taken by Boak, wants to move it quickly. Pal Pepper was running for him. Pops a hand pass over the top. Inside 50 was Rosie. Sets it up in the pocket. Mark taken. Going back there and showing some good form this season was Marshall. So Marshall will have a shot from perhaps 15, 20 metres out. 45-degree angle for the perfect start for the Power.
Just great rebound from the half-back line. Carl Amon involved 2 or 3 times, and Connor Rosie probably should have kicked for goal, but didn't quite hit it properly, and Marshall was able to take a well-judged mark.
So Marshall comes in and starts it way right off the outside of the boot, and a minor score. So just the one behind, and Port lead by that margin through the first 60 seconds of the contest.
That's been his one wood this season, his ability to kick goals. He's had a terrific conversion rate, so that's a pretty disappointing start.
Ridley bangs it long for the Bombers up to left half back. Spills to Amon, who's under immediate pressure from Hobbs and tackled over the boundary line. That was a shank from Todd Marshall. It was awful. Should have been a gimme goal to start the game. But we'll let him off. He's had 13 in the last 5, so toss back into play. Phillips puts down Hayes in the ruck contest, takes the ball away and smashes it up to half forward for Essendon. Draper's in a one-on-one with Aaliyah waiting there. The ball won't reach them. Takes an awkward bounce and moves over the boundary line. So we'll try again, left half forward for the Bombers, kicking to the northern end as Liz Walsh touched on.
It's an interesting matchup.
Yeah, Draper and Aaliyah.
Draper and Aaliyah, yeah.
Cleary's got 2 metre Peter and Jonas has got, the new boy coming back? Perkins.
Straight out of the ruck contest, it'll go to Phillips, the Essendon ruckman. Umpire ruled there was some sort of hold in there. Not really sure. Anyway, Phillips goes into the pocket with his kick and out on the full. Poorly directed, just inside 50 as it turns out. So Cleary wins a free kick. Goes straight across the goals to Houston and then out to that scoreboard pocket to Aaliyah and then to Jonas, who's forced to hold up.
Front of the scoreboard, the power skipper thought about going twice. He's called to play on, but there's zero pressure, so plenty of time to think about what he wants to do. Down the line he goes to an out number in favour of the Bombers. Hobbs brought it down, but Power Pepper was there. Little 1-2 with Motlock. Now around the body, Dumont just bangs it up to centre wing. Gray came late, brought it to ground, spilled to McGrath for Essendon. Uses Laverty. Then forward, the hand pass wasn't a great one from Merritt. Turned it straight over. Knocked over his head. Gray tried to put it in front of Marshall out on the eastern side. Dixon now a handball centrally, too wide for Powell Pepper. He's under immediate pressure on the logo and gives it up. Shield inside to Merritt. 1-2 for the Bombers. Put it wide of McGrath, but he can gather in the centre circle. Uses Parrish. Shield kept running. Gathers on the western side. Pierces it towards the left forward pocket. Well wide. Inaccuracy plaguing the Bombers in that set piece, and they've turned it over out on the full. Free kick to Port Adelaide, who are up by a point.
It's a bit like you see at Geelong, isn't it? A little bit of a skinnier ground and players just over-kicking.
So Cleary with his second free kick for an out on the full. Down the line he goes. Hayes ends up taking a chest mark straight to Amon by hand, and then Amon cuts across the ground. He's at right half back, spreads it all the way to the eastern side of the ground where Burton took the mark. Forced to hold up by Heppel. Goes down towards half forward, carries over the top of Robbie Gray and his opponent Kelly, who dogs him now, but Gray turns nicely, kick partly smothered. Marshall couldn't get a hold of it. It's picked up by Ridley, off to Merritt. They flick it around again, the Bombers through the hands, end up going unnecessarily, I thought, backwards. Now a short pass from Ridley to Parrish, and then he's forced into a disposal that's turned over in the corridor. Rosie marks it. halfway between that, about 40 metres out, straight in front. Gee, that was poor.
You couldn't have asked for better delivery from your teammate, could you? That was almost lace out. Connor Rosie couldn't believe his eyes.
So Rosie, another should-be goal. This time, the young champion doesn't make a mistake. Port's first on the board. A lead by 7 points. Port 117. Essendon yet to score. We've travelled through 4 minutes in the opening quarter at the Adelaide Oval.
Well, just overuse, Steve. We spoke about it in the pre-game. They're continually trying to over-handball the ball, Essendon, to players that are either not facing the game. When you're out and facing the game and you're running towards goal, they need to kick the ball more. They're going sideways. We saw Dylan Shield just before. I mean, that was a chain of 4 or 5 handballs lateral, not north-south towards the goals. And then they tried to do it again. It wasn't great pressure either by Port Adelaide in that part of the ground, but I'm not sure biting that much off this early was ideal either from Parrish.
Port by 7 on the text line. Cam, the truckie near Seduna, says it is pouring down here. Hopefully far enough away to keep it a dry game at the Adelaide Oval. Awkward bounce in the middle, favoured Hayes, and it'll be recalled.
Well, the bad news is Seduna's at the back end of the rain. It's a little bit closer than that.
The umpires this afternoon, Nathan Toner, Michael Pell, and Jacob Mollison, tossed up in the middle. Hayes wins it down for the Power, but Phillips can crumb for the Bombers. Quick clear and kick inside 50. Hobbs had to spoil it down up against Houston. Trickled its way towards Perkins, had to become the tackler on Wines. He got a handball out to Butters. Port can surge now. Dumont heads up towards the left forward pocket to Marshall. Leading out, takes it on the chest, 45 out, wheels around, heads to Dixon in the top of the goal square, gets a hand up, can't reel it in. Bombers have numbers at the fall of the ball. Laverty uses Merritt, nice kick inside. And he'll hit up Caldwell on return for the Bombers, looks for the switch out to the eastern side. It's a great kick, finds Durham at right half back.
Durham pushes off, goes down to half forward long. Cleary and Draper neither of them got a hand on the ball, fell over the back. Draper just put a sock into the ball and then hit it inside 50, and it's come back to them and across the goals. Minus score, away to the left. Kicked that time by Martin. So opening score of the afternoon, probably in keeping with their disposal this afternoon, the Bombers, thus far. Just a minor scorer. Margin of 6 points in favour of Port Adelaide.
The Power now heading towards the eastern side. Houston still inside defensive 50. Loads up. Massive kick down the line. Marshall, hands in the back, still took the mark. Umpire doesn't say it's a free kick, so they'll keep going. Centre kick inside. Works well for Houston. On the right, he bangs it towards the top of the square. Finlayson gets a run at it and claims it. Dixon nearly took him out in the air, but Jeremy only had eyes for the footy. And Finlayson marks it 20 out, straight in front for the Power.
Well, what Port Adelaide doing, they're rebounding out of their back half, which we know that's one of their real strengths. And since round 5, they've been almost the best in the competition. So they've got that game, part of their game going. But what they're doing is they're actually changing angles of the game. They're actually, that matchup in the end was Finlayson versus McGrath, and that's clearly one that Port are going to win.
Inaccurate year for Finlayson, 12 goals, 10. This should be a gimme. On the left from 30, he converts. Port have the opening 2 goals in the first term at the Adelaide Oval. 2-1-13, plays 1 behind. And we've travelled 8 minutes on Grandstand AFL. Your experts, Stephen Williams and Scott Camporelli.
Just a wonderful kick by Ollie Wines. Port were able to open the game up again just with that handball through the middle of the ground, and Wines probably had another handball on, but he saw that mismatch, and Finlayson used his body a bit better than Dixon did the previous time when Laverty was able to hold the much bigger player out, but Finlayson was able to rise high, take a nice mark and finish with a pretty easy goal.
Well, and that's a difference, Steve. We highlighted Essendon over. They would handball 3 or 4 times there. Ollie Wines, I think, made the right decision. He's got 2 key forwards with poor matchups. Get it in there.
So the early honours for Port Adelaide could well have had 3 goals on the board. They've got 2-1. Out of the middle, Parrish for Essendon. Uses the kick this time. Down to half forward. Hobbs came out, took it. Hand pass backwards. And then across to Parrish again. And Parrish sends it inside forward 50. Jones went up, couldn't take the mark. Down it came to ground. Waterman slid in, dragged it in. What does the umpire think? A number of players around the ball. Umpire gives it benefit of the doubt. Waterman clearly reached out after sliding to the ground and pulled it in, but the umpire says, let's ball it up right out in front of the goals.
Draper tries to take it out of the contest. Dumont was waiting. Quick kick around the body, exits defensive 50. Finlayson tried to bring it in with one arm but couldn't. Merritt paddles to his advantage and across the boundary line for the Bombers. Handball was smothered but trickled to Ridley. Over the top he uses Caldwell. Now McGrath gets a run. Heads inside 50. He spots Jones who flew. Got crunched by Jonas. Umpire says play on as the ball hits the deck. Plenty of players dive onto the footy. Ball up to come. 30 out. Slight angle to the right. Over at the MCG, Carlton by 2 over Collingwood, 4 minutes into the third. Toss back up. Hayes wins it down. Hobbs came through, may have been collected high by Alier. He was. Free kick to Essendon. Slight angle to the right. Ben Hobbs will get a shot on goal. 35 metres out. A chance for Essendon's first.
Just got to make the most of these now. We saw Port Adelaide miss an easy one early, but the visiting team just has to make the most of opportunities early in the game.
Their only multiple goal scorer last week leans back from 35. It's carrying across the face and in the end just through for a minor score on the left-hand side. 2 behinds to the Bombers. Port Adelaide 2-1-13. And we've just hit the 10-minute mark at the Adelaide Oval in the opening term.
Carried out to Drew on that eastern side of the ground by Port Adelaide. Now he looks back centrally, diagonally, at 45 degrees, goes down to half forward, falls to the back of the pack. Hind picks it up for Essendon, crunched by a tackle from Rosie. Parrish was there, hand pass to Heppel. Back he went to Ridley, and then Ridley went down the line and found Waterman out on centre wing. Eastern side of the ground, Waterman inboard with his kick. Wasn't too bad, found Martin. He looks inside, the hand passes again, worked this time for Essendon. Inside 50, Hines kick towards the goal square, through the hands, and in the end, Alier takes it over the line for the rush behind for the Bombers. 3 behinds on the board for Essendon. Port Adelaide 2-1-13 after 11 minutes on Grandstand AFL.
Port Adelaide quick to move it up the western side. Finlayson the target, takes the mark, centre wing on the logo, wheels and goes. Gray's out, all alone in space. The kick just needs to stay in the field of play, and it tumbled its way over. Port Adelaide were away there. Robbie Gay, plenty of distance on Jordan Ridley. Now a boundary throw-in to come at right half forward for the Power.
Well, it was really a poor option in the end. They had 3 lining up, probably on that 45 in the corridor. Then they could have gone to Robbie Gray.
Toss back into play. Draper in front position, tries to take it out of the ruck contest, couldn't claim it. Parrish overruns the footy. Boak slides in, flicks a handball out to Drew. Then Pal Pepper at the back. Bangs it on the right, staying along the boundary line and ultimately just in. Merritt left it. Oh, it's out on the full. Umpires called it as it carried there. That looked like it stayed in the field of play. Essendon will receive a gimme free kick, left back pocket.
So it's Merritt with the ball, looking for options inside. Nothing available, called to play on. Down the line he comes on this broadcast side of the ground. Port Adelaide from behind with a fence there over the shoulder, which is doing pretty well because it's 2 metre Peter Wright. So he just drops it in short, and the mark taken by Shield near the interchange gates. Goes back to Ridley. He'll just buy some time and wait and just sends it back to Shield. So they've gained nothing out of that. Shield called to play on now from near the interchange gates. Goes down to half forward. And coming across was Wright, almost took the mark. 4-man pack. Alier and Jonas there for Port Adelaide, and Jones and Peter Wright got hands on it for Essendon.
Just a bit slow, the build-up, isn't it? They're just going back and forth across the ground. To put real pressure on Port, you have to get it in there quickly to some one-on-ones.
10-point lead to the Power, 13 minutes in. Phillips tapped behind his head beautifully to Parrish. Handball wide to Durham, then Heppel heads up towards right half forward to Hobbs. It could have been out there, but they went sideways instead. Now Port Adelaide have flooded into defensive 50. Hobbs looks for a lead, then loads up towards the top of the goal square. 3-on-3 awaits. Alier comes across, brings it to ground. It trickles towards the boundary line, right forward pocket. Durham keeps it in, hands it out. Oh, he didn't. Martin could have had a shot on goal, but just carried it over the line, did Sam Durham. And now a boundary throw-in to come in front of the scoreboard.
So this is where Essendon have got to take control. They got Phillips versus Pal Pepper. So they've been doing that the last couple of weeks with Pal Pepper going as the second ruck. They've got to get some real dominance here.
Well, Pal Pepper won that tap out. Straight to Parrish, though, of the Bombers, and off his left foot just centres the ball up. Wright got rid of his man, couldn't get hands on the ball. Now he does. Flicks up a hand pass, went straight to Amon for Port Adelaide. Went straight back to Alier, who cleared the area down towards half-back. Bombers will come again. Martin has the ball in hand, received it from Ridley. Now he goes forward with his hand pass to Merritt. Does a donut, went around in a circle, then gave it to Ridley. Somehow Port have come out of there with numbers as well. Bonner with a good kick, found Gray. Running was Boak, and he gave it to Motlop, and there's Rosie, the aforementioned. Inside forward 50, takes the mark, 40 out. They just got out the back, Port Adelaide. Bombers, again, found out they just couldn't get the numbers to work for them. Rosie goes to Dixon, and about 2 metres out, just to the right of the posts, takes the mark, falling back. He was opposed to Kelly, who just couldn't handle the big man, and he gets up limping too. That's a bad sign for the Port Adelaide, even though he does have the mark.
Sucking the big ones in, I think that first game back,
it's like the old first pre-season game, Steve.
2 steps around on the left foot, no problems for Charlie Dixon. Welcome back, big guy. First game of the season, they come from everywhere to welcome him back as well. So Port Adelaide slip away, 3-1-19, Essendon 3 behinds, 13 and a half gone in the opening quarter. Grandstand AFL with Stephen Williams and Scott Camporelli.
It's probably poor, wasn't it, that ruck throw-in down there? We talked about Phillips should get the advantage, and Pal Pepper was the one that just...
Well, it's embarrassing, really. I mean, the midfield coach at Essendon would be pulling his hair out, Steve. But for me, we highlighted it pre-game, Steve, around Essendon trying to overuse the handball. So to highlight that point, they've had 28 kicks, Essendon, 32 handballs against the number 2 pressure team in the competition. So you can see there quite clearly that as soon as the pressure came on, they turned the ball over and Port Adelaide were just out.
16-point lead to the Power. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Stephen Williams, Scott Camporelli and Liz Walsh with you. Nice bounce in the middle. Hayes slapped it down, as did Shield as it head towards the deck. Straight to Merritt, who kicks it forward on the 45, uses Perkins, then Martin. Now Hobbs out on the eastern side, chips it over the top. Shield kept running. Marks uncontested, just inside the 50, tight angle. He stepped off his line, called to play on. Fakes, goes long to the left forward pocket. 3 on 3 there. Cleary gets a run, spoils it down. Perkins is tackled, dropped the footy. Play continues, right off to Smith. Kicks around the body and hits the left-hand goalpost. From 15 out, another minor score to Essendon, who are yet to get a goal. 4 behinds, Port 3-1-19. And we've travelled 16 and a half into the opening term on Grandstand AFL over at the MCG. Collingwood by 3 points over the Blues midway through the third.
So Bonner brought the ball in quickly. Sent it outside 50. Houston half volley down towards centre wing now. Here's a bit of holding on. And in the marking contest, it'll be Finlayson who gave it up. And the Laverty will take the free kick for the Bombers. Inboard he goes with his kick. Inside forward 50, big numbers there. Phillips couldn't bring it down for the Bombers. Now they make a tackle. No, they don't. Hayes gets a hand pass free to Bonner. Bonner whips it wide to Burton. So they're out Port Adelaide again. Butters took the mark forward, hand pass straight away. And they keep going forward to Wines. Wines was tackled in the back as he received the ball from Dumont. So he'll take the free kick near half forward out on that eastern side.
Wines plays on quickly through the square. Long kick inside 50 for Port Adelaide. Early rise, brought down by Ridley. Laverty's handball wasn't clean. Drew intercepts, hands it back to Dumont. Left forward pocket. Butters tried to centre his kick. It was too low along the deck. Dumont tries to wheel in, lost it. Drew comes to assist. Retreats all the way back to left half back. Burton doesn't know what to do with it either. Gives to Bonner. He can't get around Smith. Caught him. Handball comes clear out through the eastern wing. Jones far from home for the Bombers, tries to pick it up but can't cleanly. Wines finally kicks it away. Back inside 50 for the power. Finlayson couldn't get a fly. Ridley again brings it down to Laverty, whose handball is a miss. Straight to Butters. Arches the back from 20 and dribbles it home. Celebrates with the crowd. Zach Butters. Plenty of energy early. And Port Adelaide with a big lead as well in the opening stages. They're out by 21 points, 4-1-25, plays 4 behinds. And we've just hit the 19-minute mark at the Adelaide Oval on Grandstand AFL.
Well, I'm not sure what Laverty's doing. I mean, I know they're under pressure down there, Steve, but he's just dumped that ball back into the corridor as a defender. Like, kick it long down the boundary line. He could have accelerated and kicked it down the line and cleared the area. He dumps it back into the corridor where Butters has just picked it up and just laid one across his boot. I mean, they're a bit of a rebel down there at the moment.
Their initial pressure wasn't bad, was it? They forced the ball out, but Port were able to get it back in again. And as you said, just some poor decision making.
And even worse than that, on the scoreboard, when they've had the opportunities, Bombers haven't taken them. Now they find themselves 21 down. Out of the middle again, the centre break for the Bombers. Parrish went long to half forward. 2 grabs, Durham took a nice mark. Right half forward. Port floods back. Durham decides to go sideways to Parrish, just inside the centre square. Then he hand passes it off. Heppel off his left foot. He goes wide with a kick, turns it over. Houston came out, took an intercept mark, but basically it was a lead and he took it on the chest for Port Adelaide. Down the line he goes looking for Robbie Gray. He was able to hold the mark. He played on. Umpire finally called it right on the interchange gates. He just pops it up to half forward. Coming and meeting it was Motlop. Flicked back out the hand pass to Dumont. Then back he went to Wines. Over the top, in space, out the back was Drew. Approaches 50, centres up the ball. Motlop's there, and coming across was Durham knocking it away for Hine to pick it up for Essendon.
He's under a bit of pressure from Motlop, does well. Centres his kick to McGrath, who marks uncontested. Wants to go, kick is flat and just 15 on the painted defensive 50 to Nick Martin. Pointed wide out to the western side, then goes east instead. Up to centre wing, kick is awful. Bounces in front of Hayes, who had an early lead on Phillips. Gives it to his skipper in Jonas, and Port Adelaide now looking to go up to left half forward. Martin will spoil Darcy Byrne-Jones and knock it over the boundary line. Messy football from the visitors.
Just those turnover goals, isn't it? Port able to win the ball back, and then from there they just charge down the field. The Bombers can't do much about it.
21-point lead to the power. The Bombers yet to kick a goal. Draper and Hayes had a hold of each other. There's a whistle. Which way is it going to go is the question. The umpire signals to Essendon's way. Sam Draper has it in defensive 50 now for the Bombers. Phillips started in the ruck. He started forward. Heads up towards centre wing, 3-on-3. But Houston somehow takes the uncontested mark after getting away from his opponent. And then goes long into the left forward pocket. He spots Dixon, couldn't bring it down cleanly. Trickles its way to Farrell. He slid in and collided with Dixon. Kept his feet, hands it out back to Butters. Then Motlop centres his kick to Dumont. True centre half forward, just inside the square. Dumont opens the angle. In the right forward pocket, he spots a leading Marshall. The kick is wide. Has to go low to ground and he can't reel it in. Trickles its way over the boundary line to be tossed back into play. 30 out, right forward pocket, Riverbank stand end for the Power.
And just to highlight that, they've had 9 rebounds, Port Adelaide, for 6 inside 50s for 1 goal 1. So they're getting through Essendon's midfield and defence really easy.
Port by 21 points. Off the ruck contest, Rosie just socketed centrally. Picked up by Farrell, wide hand pass in the pocket. Gray had already used up the ball and thought, what can I do? And then fumbled it across the boundary line, some 15, 20 metres around from the goal face. We'll get a throw in.
Rare footage of that, isn't it? Robbie Gray fumbling. Doesn't normally do that. Normally a Rolls Royce, Robbie.
Toss back in. Draper slaps it down looking for Martin. Did well to get a handball out to Kelly. Now back to Martin. On the left, around the body, heads up the western side. Bounces in front of Phillips, who paddled it straight to Devon Smith, who's crunched. Ball trickles out. Port have numbers at the back. Bonner uses Powell-Pepper over the top. He's looking for Wines. He's caught behind Shields. Slipped on the boundary line. Tries to keep it in, though, even though he's under immediate pressure, and did very well, Dylan Shield. Gets it to Parrish. Now Devon Smith. The Bombers racing through the western side. Heppel over the top to Martin. Arches the back. Puts it into space in front of Wright. He'll have 2 to beat. Jonas coming across. Eases it over the boundary line. It'll be tossed back into play. Left forward pocket for Essendon. Yet to kick a goal. 23 and a half minutes played into the opening term. They're down by 21.
Well, the only highlight for Essendon at the moment is their clearance work. 2-12, they're winning, but haven't had. It's just coming straight out when they have got it inside there.
And it's about to come out again. Wines with a diving hand pass off to Powell-Pepper. Makes some yards and then drives it down this broadcast wing. Going back, taking the mark nicely. And the intercept was Ridley for the Bombers. Towards the logo, and he finds Merritt. Merritt backs up. Butters on the mark saying, well, he's not gone straight back. In the end, he goes down to half forward with the kick, Merritt. Phillips and Jones spoiled each other for the Bombers, allowed the hand passes to come in again from Port Adelaide, and the clearance by Byrne-Jones. And Robbie Gray takes the mark to slow things down at right half back.
The 34-year-old had 2 goals last week in Port Adelaide's loss to Geelong. Heads down the western side looking for Powell-Pepper, who rose in the pack. Beat Merritt, takes the mark, hands it off to Byrne-Jones, tries to wheel in, had to get an underground handball, worked well to aim on, put it in front of Rosie. They'll take the advantage off the after the disposal free kick, and Rosie will centre his kick inside to Butters. He marks diving back, 40 out, 45-degree angle to the right.
Well, they're living up to their the stat that we've set at the start. I mean, Essendon just don't put any pressure on the ball carrier. Rosie, he's literally walking down the park, Steve, like you down at Glenelg, down at Collie Reserve there. You're just rolling around on your right foot and just said, who wants a free uncontested mark? And at the moment, Port Adelaide, they've had 25 uncontested marks already for the game.
Zach Butters already has 1. He's looking for back-to-back goals at the Adelaide Oval. Trots in from 48 on the right. It's coming back and hitting the right-hand goalpost. Minor score for the Power. 22 points their lead, 4-2-26. Plays 4 behind. 25 played in the opening term over at the MCG. Time on there in the third. Collingwood lead Carlton by 4 points.
And it'll be Hine to bring the ball in. Plays on. Ran his full measure and then chipped it outside 50 to Martin. So down the line he goes with the pass. McGrath with the mark. He's at right half back on that eastern side of the Adelaide Oval. McGrath just gets a boot under the ball. Big numbers down there. Punches from Port Adelaide. Back towards the logo. Hine picked it up, dummied around 1, drove it inside forward. 50 was met late. Jones goes back and takes the mark. Judged it really well. The Bombers will get a shot at goal from about 25 out, 45-degree angle. And Harry Jones will be the man.
Just one of the few times the Bombers actually didn't muck around with the ball too much through the midfield. Hine got it, ran straight, kicked the ball long, got it in there quickly, and look what happens. You get an opportunity for your forwards to mark the ball.
So Jones back from an ankle injury, his first game since round 17 last season. In he comes and drops it straight and sneaks it the wrong side of the post for the minus score. So they're butchering the chances they do create, and there aren't many chances being created by the Bombers. They trail by 21 points, and we've gone through 26 minutes in the opening term.
Riley Bonner wants to go straight down the spine. Long kick towards the square, off hands, it spills all the way out to the logo western side. Heppel slides in, he's outnumbered. Finlayson tries to wrench it out, slaps it forward, tumbling its way to right half forward. It'll be cut off by Parrish. He uses McGrath and Laverty. Now Caldwell for the Bombers. Up to half forward, Harrison Jones gets a run at it, takes the mark, too far out to score. He'll load up, heading towards the left forward pocket. He spots Peter Wright, trying to get a run, nearly claimed it against Cleary. Spills down front and square to Smith. Flicked a handball out to Martin. Heppel retreats back to Caldwell. Snaps on the left from 40. It doesn't have enough of a curl. It'll sit up on the behind line and just over for the minus score. The Bombers technically have a goal. 6 behinds, 27-minute mark. Port Adelaide 4-2-26.
There's 6 scoring shots apiece, and probably 3 of them were gimme goals, so the Bombers should be a lot closer than they are.
Port Adelaide quick into Rosie, then hand pass to Burton. He went down to half forward with his kick and long. Wines bottom of the pack, just managed to get it out and hope. And the siren beats them. Laverty, in any case, had possession for the Bombers. Disappointing opening quarter from the visitors. Port Adelaide to be really happy, much more efficient. 4-2-26 Port Adelaide. Essendon just the 6 behinds in the opening quarter.
The 4 goal scorers for the home side, Finlayson, Butters, Rosie and Dixon. It's starting to get dark at the Adelaide Oval, and the radar says the rain is coming. The home side with a 20-point lead at the opening break. Over at the MCG, 23-minute mark of the third, Collingwood up by 10 over Carlton, 7-11-53 to 6-7-43. The text line across the afternoon/evening, 0437 774 774. It's great to have your company on ABC Radio and Sport Digital. This is Grandstand AFL.
ABC, your trusted source of accurate and timely emergency information.
We've had the ABC on basically all afternoon listening.
There's so much going on. Getting news is a priority.
Well, I'm a fan of the ABC.
It must be love, love, love.
I listen to the ABC every day. I'm extremely grateful.
ABC Radio, reliable source for information.
On radio, on the ABC Listen app and the ABC Emergency website.
It must be love, love, love.
ABC, stay connected.
This is Sir Doug Nicholls Round.
Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Rosie, another should-be goal. This time, the young champion doesn't make a mistake.
Inaccurate year for Finlayson, 12 goals, 10. This should be a gimme. On the left from 30, he converts.
Bombers, again, found out they just couldn't get the numbers to work for them. Rosie goes to Dixon, and about 2 metres out, just to the right of the posts, takes the mark, falling back. He was opposed to Kelly. 2 steps around on the left foot, no problems for Charlie Dixon. Welcome back, big guy.
Ridley again brings it down to Laverty, whose handball is a miss. Straight to Butters, arches the back from 20 and dribbles it home.
The Sir Doug Nicholls Round.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
A hot start for the home side. Port Adelaide up by 20 points. The Bombers yet to kick a goal. 4-2-26 plays 6 behinds at the Adelaide Oval. Earlier today, St Kilda defeating North Melbourne by 53 points over at the MCG. Collingwood leading Carlton by 11 in the third. And over at Norwood Oval, North Adelaide winners of the Sandford W. They defeated Sturt by 18 points, 7-6-48 to 4-6-30. Great to have your company. The conclusion to round 11 on Grandstand AFL. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Stephen Williams, Scott Camporelli with you. I'm not going to lie, gents, I've had the chance to see the Bombers, well, this will be the second time I've seen them this year because I called Fremantle and Essendon earlier in the year. And they've been woeful both times so far, and there's a real argument that they could be in the conversation of North Melbourne, West Coast territory if they keep playing like we just saw.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Having now watched them live, watched a couple of games on the TV, but they just don't have any pressure on the ball. I mean, we could sit here and say, yeah, the numbers are pretty even, Steve, in contested possession and ground balls, those things that they haven't been that great in. But for me, I'll go back to a couple of things, Steve. One kick versus one handball in the modern day game, that's fraught with danger. Every time you handball the ball or over handball the ball, you invite pressure from the opposition, and you're up against a team who prides themselves on that this year. They're the second best in the competition, so they've been able to put pressure on it, turn the ball over in Essendon's front half, Port Adelaide's back half, and they've had 10 goes and they've got 7 inside 50s. So the pressure that then Essendon are applying on the counter is non-existent, and Port Adelaide have just been way too more efficient once they've gone in there. 11 times versus 4 goals too. Whereas the Bombers have had 13 inside 50, so they tick that box, but 6 points. So they've missed their opportunities. But for mine, this is playing right into Port Adelaide's hand, and it's got a 10 to 12 goal victory smell already.
Yeah, when you look at the stats, and the Bombers are winning contested possession, they're winning clearance 12-3. So you think Port are going to even that clearance statistic up at some stage. But as you mentioned, the thing that stands out is the ease at which Port can rebound the ball from the Bombers forward 50 through the midfield. So unless the Bombers can work out a way to hold Port up, it's just too easy. And with the class of the Houston and Burton, these guys that can use the ball really well. Carl Amon's been another one that's been able to get him and really open the Bombers up with his left foot turning in, just opening the middle of the ground up. They're looking really dangerous. And up forward, Dixon looks dangerous, Marshall looks dangerous, as does Finlayson, and Motlop hasn't scored, but he's looked pretty lively on the ground along with Butters and Rosie. So things are looking okay. But having said that, 6 scoring shots apiece. So the Bombers probably of those 6, 3 of them were pretty standard shots at goal. So it could be 3 goal, 3 to 4 goal 2, and we'd probably be a little bit more buoyant on the way the Bombers are going. So as I mentioned right at the very start, you just have to make the most of your chances, and they weren't half chances. They were 80% you should kick them goals, and they've missed them all, unfortunately.
Leading possession getters at quarter time, Darcy Parish has 12. Early Wines has 9, Sam Palpepper and Riley Bonner with 8 apiece. Jordan Ridley, Dylan Shield have a 9 as well for Essendon. No goals for the Bombers, so the only individual goal scorers for the Power of Finlayson, Butters, Rosie and Dixon. On the text line 0437 774 774. Mark from Belrive in Hobart says, enjoying your commentary. I watched some of it on the TV and wow, the skills are so bad. It's always so messy. You fellas do a good job of making it sound good. The skills of professional athletes is disgraceful. And Dave says, hi, Port Adelaide can try harder than what they're doing now and score more before the rain starts. They'll certainly win this game. It's looking pretty cloudy. We'll see what's to come in this second quarter. Paul Liz Walsh downstairs. Fingers crossed that it won't get too wet. 20-point lead to the Power up against Essendon. Hayes wins it down in the middle, put it in front of Wines, immediately gang tackled by Draper and Merritt. He's not going anywhere. Ball up to come in the middle. Port Adelaide looking for their 5th win of the year, the bye next week. Hayes slaps it down in front of Travis Boak. Caught in the tackle immediately, couldn't really get it out. Burn Jones clearing kick around the body. Sat up for Palpepper. He's under pressure immediately from Hind. Lost the footy in the process. Coming through, Caldwell may have been legged. The tackle from Palpepper deemed legal. The umpire will circle and say my ball out on the eastern side.
Good work there by Sam Palpepper. That's been one real bonus with his game, his ability just to chase, tackle and hold the ball in the area.
Draper in the ruck. Couldn't take it out. Couple of tacklers around him. Ball fell to ground. Crowd wanted holding the ball. No go, says the umpire. Eventually comes in. Says, I'll ball it up. So, again, hasn't moved too far between centre wing and half forward for Port Adelaide. Off the ruck contest, Butters hand passed it out. Got it to Wines, the big bull. Got the kick away down towards half forward. Marshall came. Ridley forced him off the ball. It went to Boak. He sends it high. Inside forward 50, Dixon. Made the contest. Ball bounced up for him and he was immediately tackled. And the umpire said it was illegal in the back. So Laverty was the man who got him.
Pretty stiff, really. He sort of put a saddle on him, but I thought he actually got to the side of him a bit rather than falling straight in the middle of his back. But it's a huge job for Laverty. He'd be giving up a lot of height and weight against the size of Dixon, but the Bombers have elected to go with Ridley on Marshall. So it's a tough task for the undersized defender.
Charlie Dixon for his second of the afternoon. In he comes and sends it straight enough. Port Adelaide start the second quarter with a goal. So they've got 5-2-32 on the board. The Bombers just the 6 behinds, 2 minutes into the second term at the Adelaide Oval. Your experts on Grandstand AFL, Stephen Williams and Scott Camporelli.
Yeah, well, we spoke about the clearance, dominance of Essendon. Port Adelaide, one straight out of the centre bounce and then one from a midfield ball up, and they get a goal from that source. So all their scores come from turnover at this point in time, Port, but once again got it in pretty quickly, one-on-one, and as you say, Steve, that matchup, not ideal.
The voice of Scott Camporelli alongside Stephen Williams. Aaron Bryan's Neil Cross with you over at the MCG. Three-quarter time, Collingwood by 11 over the Blues. Here it's the Power by 26 over the Bombers. Nice high bounce in the middle. Draper slaps it straight down to Parrish. He gets a quick clearance up towards half forward. Clean mark taken by Martin. Too far out to score. He'll centre his kick on the 45. Mark taken for Essendon. And Archie Perkins can go back straight in front. Bit far out. It'll think he'll have the distance.
Much better play though from the Bombers. It was just quick out of the middle. Just a kick, get it forward. The forward reads the ball quicker than the defender does, and then nice work by Perkins just to push into the gap, and he was found with a nice pass.
Decent year for Archie Perkins. He's only been goalless in 3 of their 10 games. 11 goals, 3 to the pick 9. Comes in, slips as he kicks. It's got a lot of carry, but it's going to miss to the right-hand side. 0-7 the Bombers. Port Adelaide 5-2-32. Approaching the 4-minute mark of the second quarter at Adelaide Oval.
Port move the ball quickly from the kick in. They've got it to Houston out in the eastern side. Down to the logo centre wing. Dumont took the mark. Held up and then decided to hand pass. It was a slow carry, but still Butters was free. Inside 50, he goes with a kick. Marshall from behind on Ridley. Forced him under the ball, took the mark. Have a look at goal.
That's poor. That's really poor, Steve. From a kick here point of view, so that's when you got an opportunity. The game is slowed down. You've got virtually 36 players in the front half of your or the defensive half of your ground. They've gone 4 uncontested marks, and now Marshall's got a shot on goal.
And despite the height up forward that we mentioned about Essendon, it's 7 contested marks to 0 in the game. Todd Marshall, in he comes, and doesn't have a problem at all. Did you say 10 goals? It might be more than that.
It's getting ugly, Crossy. Yep. And we talk about the score sources. So normally in a game, Steve, turnovers about 60%, 65. Stoppages around that 30, and 5% come from kicking. Port Adelaide have kicked 2 goals already from kick-ins out of their 6. So a third of their score has come from a source where you shouldn't really get scored against.
It was just like a training drill, wasn't it? Just kick it out, handball it between the 2 opposition players, and then move it down the ground. Yeah, just too easy, as you mentioned.
Let's check in with Liz Walsh downstairs.
Just a conditions update. We're in the calm before the storm here. There's not much wind yet, but one half of Adelaide Oval has blue sky. The other half has these really menacing clouds, and according to the radar, it's about 15 minutes away from the storm hitting.
Port Adelaide with a significant lead as well in the lead up to it. 31 points as Hayes taps it down straight to Wines. Caught in the tackle and lost it. Essendon can clear. Shield pops it over the top to Martin. Marks it right half forward. Had a roadblock in Darcy Byrne-Jones, so he heads back to Merritt. Nice centre kick. Spots the target leading inside 50. Darcy Parrish will take it. 45 out, straight in front.
Yeah, really nice kick by Merritt there. Just saw Parrish drifting down from the centre bounce, and precision kick was able to find him. Now he needs to go back and kick this. He'll kick from the 50-metre arc directly in front, so it'll test him with distance, but the Bombers have missed a lot easier shots than this today, so he has to put this one through.
Darcy Parrish looking for the Bombers first. Kicks on the paint of 50. It sits up on the goal line. Will it carry over? Aaliyah can get a hand to it. Goal umpire isn't sure. It looks like we're going to get a score review.
Essendon boys aren't convinced.
Field umpire comes in.
And they should do their zone too, Steve. Get organised now. If they get scored against from here and it's a point, that's touched.
This goal umpire says touched as well. They'll check it, but I think the vision's pretty clear. We shouldn't be waiting too long.
Well, Lear's hands up there, and then it
Even
gets touched. The second one,
time.
which is not, the ball's not totally over the line.
Well, they're still taking a few angles to ensure it's over, but I think the main one's certainly pretty obvious.
Get on with it.
Review complete. Looking at this angle, we can see the ball is touched prior to crossing the back of the goal line. Decision on scoreboard.
8 straight behinds for the Bombers.
Got a lot of dots in my record.
7 minutes played in the second. They trail Port Adelaide by 30 points now. 6-2-38 to 8 behinds over at the MCG. 4th term underway. Collingwood by 11 over Carlton.
And this is a little demoralising too, Steve. As you know, as a player, like if it's 4-4, for example, and they're still in the game, they're doing some things right, obviously, because they're still generating some inside 50s, but just not putting any scoreboard pressure on, which we know is the ultimate.
They're about to enter the 50 again through Perkins.
Out in the full.
Wasn't the greatest of kicks. In fact, it was Martin with the kick, and they've gone out on the full, which from memory now they've done that 3 times in the game as well. So they came into this match with a disposal efficiency best in the competition at 76%. It's been woeful tonight.
So out on the western side, Port Adelaide trying to move it forward. Farrell along the boundary line was caught in the tackle by Laverty. Boundary throw-in to come between left half forward and centre wing. Trying to hash out the numbers, Crossy, and find out the last time the Bombers went this long without a goal, and at least this inaccurate in front of goal. Toss back into play. Slapped down by Hayes, put it in front of Wines, over around the footy. Merritt picks it up for the Bombers. 1-2 with Shield. Wheels around at right half back. Nice kick on the 45, hits Martin. Now through the square they'll go. Handballs inside.
Oh, wow.
Awful kick off the boot there by Zach Reid. Now the Bombers keep trying to search forward, but they've been held up. Big tackle laid on Martin, and the turnover's there for the Power. Here's the rebound. Wines 1-2 with Rosie. Just keeps going. Chips it over the top inside 50. It'll sit up beautifully for Motlop. Takes the uncontested mark. 40 out, straight in front.
Well, and that's the difference, Steve. You see exactly in 2 different parts of, or 2 different teams, their mode. So they actually did the right thing, Essendon. Then Reid wants to do an extra handball through the middle of the ground. Instead of his shoulders out, facing the game, you've got 3v3 ahead of the ball, and they decide to handball the ball, and the pressure came. Port Adelaide, on the other hand, they just do one handball, and Ollie Wines finds Motlop streaming in 50 all by himself.
The Larrakia man, Stephen Motlop, in Sir Doug Nicholls' Indigenous round. Didn't get the chance to kick a goal last week. Can he do it here from 45? Never in doubt. One of the game's great Indigenous players, Stephen Motlop, converts for the Power. Puts them up by a game-high 36 points. 7-2-44, plays 8 behinds. 9.5 into the second quarter on Grandstand AFL.
It was just that turnover again, wasn't it? It was really nice tackle by Port Adelaide just to win the ball back.
Willem Drew.
Willem Drew just was able to get across and just force the turnover in the middle of the ground. And when you win the ball back there, the opposition have all pushed forward. You got players out, and Ollie Wines, as you mentioned, Campo, had the opportunity to handball again, but just faked the handball, straightened up and hit Motlop with a pretty simple pass.
Stephen Motlop with his 10th goal of the season. Might get a few more opportunities in this game as well. Just the way things are going.
I reckon Weed will probably kick a goal at the night, and the way the Bombers are going.
7-2-44, plays 8 behinds.
Maybe not Aaron.
In favour of Port Adelaide. Out of the middle again. Finlayson, makeshift ruckman, sent a hand pass wide for Amon. Picked it up, Heppel got him, dropped it. Umpire now will call play on advantage. Yes, he has. Everybody stopped, so did Merritt with the ball, but eventually he gave it to Hind, and out here on this broadcast side of the ground, Hind's good kick finds Perkins, but he just slows things up for the Bombers and goes even wider to Heppel.
Skipper looks inside, finds Perkins once again and goes immediately. Attacking edge of the square, threw it on the boot, it'll work. Set up in the hole for Andrew Phillips, who marks 35 out, slight angle to the right.
Oh, you wouldn't believe it. A ruckman's probably going to kick the first goal for the game. But at least they went a bit quicker. They still slowed down, but essentially what happens is all Port Adelaide, as soon as they go sideways, Essendon, that allows Port Adelaide's defence just to get back and just clog all the space. So they just end up having to kick it and bomb to a congested forward 50.
It was almost a missed kick because Perkins was tackled just as he was about to kick it, and it finished up being perfect for the Bombers.
The 30-year-old journeyman Andrew Phillips marches in. Outstanding kick. Straight as first goal for the Bombers at the Adelaide Oval. And it comes 12 minutes into the second quarter. 1-8-14. Port Adelaide 7-2-44. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Scott Camporelli, Stephen Williams with you on Grandstand AFL.
Yeah, well, as we've highlighted already, as soon as they somewhat go quick, then they go slow again. So it just allows Port Adelaide's defence to get back. But he just pushed forward as a ruckman. I'm not sure where Hayes was, or he's not on the ground at the moment. So that's probably why. So now Finlayson's in at the centre bounce. So this is where they've had some really good dominance, though, Essendon. They've smashed Port Adelaide out of the centre bounce. So they should get good field position, but it's just coming out too easy.
See what happens this time. Phillips back in the ruck. Gets the tap down. Rosie almost had it. It'll come to Caldwell in off the wing. Hand pass and again. So it was Perkins, and then finally it ended with Shield, and wide he went with his kick, and the mark taken by Martin at half forward for the Bombers. Inside 50 he goes, and high. Ball comes off hands. Aaliyah picks it up. Lost the ball in the tackle, Cleary, and the tackle was held too long, said the umpire. So Hobbs the offender, Aaliyah to receive the free kick for Port Adelaide in the left back pocket.
30-point lead to the home side over at the MCG. Collingwood by 17. 7.5 played in the final term against Carlton. Down the line go the Power to a contest. Trickles out to Pal Pepper, immediately wrapped up by Caldwell. Got it to Finlayson. Round the body, travelled 5 metres to Motlop. He turns it over straight to Phillips. Caught in the chicken wing tackle by Rosie. Dumped to ground, holding the ball. Free kick to Port Adelaide, left half back, western side. Kicking to the northern end. Handball to Gray. Puts it long, it bounced right in front of Kelly, bounced off his chest. Found its way to Ridley, who uses Shield. Had a bit of space to run into. Heads back where it came from, right half forward for Essendon, and Jonas at the back of the pack will take the intercept mark for the Power. Doesn't waste any time, a kick on the 45 to Burne-Jones.
Burne-Jones goes centrally to Houston. Houston from the top of the 50 defensively goes out to centre wing, or just behind centre wing to Burton. So Burton holds it up. Inboard with a 45 kick to Drew. Looks around and the Bombers just keep getting picked apart here. Amon, centre of play, has taken the mark. Now he tries to dodge around his own man and about 3 Essendon players. Out wide, of course, he's got a free man. It's Rosie at half forward. Hand passes on to Aaliyah and instead he goes inside 50. Wasn't the greatest of kicks. It was intercepted by the Bombers. Now Hind with a tiny little kick at half-back. That was dangerous. Heppel released a hand pass. It's knocked to ground. Farrell picks it up for Port Adelaide. He's immediately tackled. Inside 50, left half forward for Port Adelaide, attacking that scoreboard or the cathedral end of the ground with a very, very big lead. Nearing it, or near halfway through this term.
Dixon takes it out of the ruck contest. Got it to Drew. Shoveled it to Power Pepper. Snaps from 45. It's carrying left. Minus score to the home side. 7-3-45. Essendon 1-8-14. So a 31-point lead to Port Adelaide. It got as high as 36 just a couple of minutes ago. And it's getting darker and darker by the minute at the Adelaide Oval. Playing on from the defensive goal square. Hind takes a bounce. Heads up towards right half back. Looking towards Draper, who's caught behind Aaliyah. Intercept taken. Quick kick inside 50. Sits up for Power Pepper. He's crunched. Is the mark paid?
Yep.
Yes. Thought he had it for a while there before he was collected. Sam Power Pepper takes it 40 out from goal. 45-degree angle to the left.
Yeah, just once again, the Bombers exiting that defensive 50. Just a poor kick, and Aaliyah was able to mark the ball, and then the mark wasn't manned, and he was able to just play on and kick it easily to Power Pepper. Too easy.
From Wajut country, Sam Power Pepper again goalless last week. Much like Stephen Motlop, a chance to convert a major in a special round for him. Starts outside the 50 from 45. It's starting right, and it's not coming back at all. Minus score for Port Adelaide again. 7-4-46 now. Essendon 1-8-14, a margin of 32 points. Collingwood up by 3 goals at the MCG, 11 played in the fourth.
Bombers try and work it out through their hands. Eventually to Hind, who had to do a big circle out there on the eastern side of the ground, but he found Heppel. So Heppel outside defensive 50, goes down the line. Good mark taken by Durham. Just got away from his man in Burton. So Durham with the mark, holds things up. Bombers have been so poor transitioning the ball down towards half forward. Phillips was there, came off hands. Bonner handled the ball out to Butters. And then he went high down to centre wing. Ball on the ground again. Still no clean possession. Bombers are in there with Parrish. She took it, was taken in a tackle. Umpire will call for the ball up.
32-point lead to Port Adelaide. Decent crowd in attendance. Hopefully it'll push towards 30,000 as Draper slaps it down. Was looking for Waterman. Swung around in the tackle of Gray. Spills out to Rosie. Now Burn-Jones. Down the line for Port Adelaide. Hits Farrell. Wanted the give and go with Boak. Fortunately, just a bit too fast for him. So Farrell will have to play on. Race inside. Bang it long on the left. 2-on-1 against Finlayson. So he spoils it down straight to Boak. Got it out towards Powell-Pepper. He's under pressure. Shrugs the tackle. Snaps on the left. Magnificent finish. Sam Powell-Pepper gets his first of the evening. Port Adelaide up by a game high 38 points against Essendon. 8-4-52, plays 1-8-14. 18 minutes gone in the second. On Grandstand AFL, your experts Stephen Williams and Scott Camporelli.
Well, they had enough pressure on the ball. It was Ridley was the extra that actually flew for the ball. He actually had it. He just dropped the mark, which Powell-Pepper was his direct opponent. So, as we know, if you're the defender and you want to fly, you need to impact that contest so your guy at ground level doesn't have any influence. So, they'd be disappointed with that, particularly Ridley.
Yes, he certainly had first crack at it. I think it was Todd Marshall that just was able to force the ball to the ground from the marking contest, and Powell-Pepper, we saw him miss a pretty regulation, but that was a nice left foot snap across the body.
So that margin out to 38 points, and the centre bounce will be recalled. Hayes is back in there for Port Adelaide to go against Big Draper, and it'll be Draper with the tap down. Bombers don't get possession though. Gray just handballed it into a bit of space. Boak got it, and the two veterans combine again. Back to Gray. Gray sends it down to half forward, going back and dropping the mark was Heppel. It was picked up by Laverty, gave it to Heppel, and then an interesting hand pass forward. And then the kick down the line from Caldwell finds Waterman. He's just ahead of centre wing on this broadcast side of the Adelaide Oval.
Brother of Jake Waterman at West Coast. He was a former Eagle himself, Alec. Heads towards the 50 for the Bombers. In a pack, it's knocked down front and square to Rosie. Handball back to Burn-Jones across defensive 50. They'll go with the chain. Hayes out towards Butters. Keeps going. Here's Dumont. Nice little dinky kick to Marshall at right half back, eastern side. Wants to go on the 45 into the corridor. Kicks too long for Hayes. Clears him. At the back, Waterman can give it to Parrish. The Bombers inside 50 with an awful kick. 3-on-1. And Todd Marshall takes it with ease. In defensive 50.
Should really cost you a goal when you kick the ball into the middle of the ground straight to the opposition. It should go back and hit a target, but it was just a poor kick by Darcy Parrish.
On the switch, he found Cleary. Now Finlayson exits defensive 50. Long ball to centre wing, western side. Rosie's all alone. Heads down the line of Dixon. Nearly claims it against Laverty. He's outnumbered as well. Heppel comes across. Short kick hits Parrish at right half back.
It's one area Charlie Dixon's game he's not good at, is he? Holding his ground and taking a mark like that should have been.
We'll just jump at the ball,
the easiest
Steve.
mark of all time.
He's 200 centimetres. Just jump at the ball.
Parrish goes down the line, straight off hands as Jones jumped at it for the Bombers. Great pick up by Farrell and a quick hand pass to Houston. Inboard he went with the kick. It was pretty good. Marshall half volleyed it down to half forward. It was a tumble punt. It might work out. Finlayson went to ground, tried to knock it on. Laverty was successful in doing that. Ridley with a hand pass back to Reid, and then they'll go out through Kelly, and they're out at left half back through Durham, who takes the mark from Kelly. Out there, he's just holding it up outside defensive 50 as they slow things down with a short pass to McGrath.
Over at the MCG, Collingwood surging to victory over the Blues. They're up by 23 now in the final term. Long kick clears the pack on the eastern side. Free kick for a hold going the way of the Bombers. Darcy Parrish. It'll be Ben Hobbs instead who will receive it. He's on the logo centre wing, called to play on, just loads up inside 50. Plenty running at the footy. Draper was in front position, nudged out of it. Off hands it spills to Wines. Heads back across to Houston, then Burn-Jones salts some candy around Merritt. Clears it up the eastern side. The ball was just in hope. Trying to get some territory, and Kelly sits in the hole to cut it off for the Bombers. Again, true centre wing eastern side. He calls for a lead. Gets one from Merritt. Hits him on the chest between left half forward, centre wing. Just in front of the Foss Williams stand on the 45. He'll kick inside. Just behind half forward finds Hobbs. Port Adelaide up by 38 points. Hobbs called to play on. Races inside the square and then kicks all the way out towards the western side to Laverty. Spots a target forward. Here's Heppel, the skipper. Again too far out to score. On the left, he'll head towards the top of the goal square. Alia's backing back. Wright's in front position, can't claim it. Winds around the body, will clear it.
His bouncing ball just found its way to Laverty. Forced it back inside attacking 50. Comes back to Merritt. The hand pass to McGrath. He's at half forward. He gets it forward to Caldwell, ducked a tackle, slipped a hand pass back. McGrath came flying through, went straight to goal with a kick. Brilliant finish. Crowd maybe not happy with the disposal that found its way to McGrath, but he made the most of it, went straight to goal. And the Bombers have their second deep in the second quarter, 22 minutes down, almost 23 minutes in. The Bombers 2-8-20, trailing Port Adelaide 8-4-52. We'll head down to the boundary. Liz Walsh, in trepidation perhaps.
Yeah, I'm not worrying about the weather so far, but Essendon coach Ben Rutten, he coaches from the bench down here, and despite the score, he's really trying to stay up, patting all his players on the shoulders. He talks to them on the bench, and he gave a really big fist pump at that goal.
Positive signs, Campo, in what's been a difficult evening so far.
I'm not sure what else he can do other than go out and perhaps try and help defend themselves. But I know Truck, if he was down in that back line in the moment, he would not be too happy.
32-point lead to the Power. Hayes gets it down to Boak in the middle. Now Butters gathers on the bounce, races away inside 50. His kick isn't a great one. Hines should have cut it off and didn't. At the back, the handball comes out. Nice one from Gray. Gives it off to Finlayson. Then Marshall prods it up towards Powell-Pepper. Just didn't have the length. And back with the flight, Jai Caldwell will cut it off in defensive 50. Looks to go across the goal face to the scoreboard pocket. He'll find the former Crow in Jake Kelly.
Kelly knows the ground well, but he just can't find any space really to kick to. Finally, he just goes right down the line, and good mark taken by Durham, hit the ground running. Hand pass across the ground, as is their way, the Bombers, and then Parrish went wide with his kick. He found Martin on this broadcast side of the ground, so they switched okay, and then the mark down the line by Perkins. He's about 55 out from goal. Waits, takes his time, drops it in short. Waterman with the lead, and the left footer has the ball in the right pocket. He'll back up. Well, you'd think he'd have the distance on this. He's a pretty good kick, and he'll back up outside the 50 and over the boundary line to take his shot.
Probably the Bombers' best passage of play from the back half. They're able to bring it to the opposite side of the ground and then work it down with some pretty good kicks, and I've seen Waterman kick a lot of goals from this position, so you'd back him in from here. 9
goals, 3 on the season. Waterman comes in and shanks it completely out on the full.
Steve.
Well done, Steve.
He's a Port supporter.
Normally he's a great kick, isn't he, from that position?
Awful kick out of the defensive goal square, though. Another chance for the Bombers. Waterman now trying to gather, 20 out from goal. Trickles back towards Amon. He's under immediate pressure from Caldwell. Burne-Jones will walk it over the boundary line in the left back pocket for the Power. So a little bit of feeling in this one now. Essendon feel like they're getting some momentum, but still trailing by 32 at the moment. Toss back into play. One down by Draper, spilled straight to Amon, gives it off to Boak. Bangs it on the boot. Spiral punt up towards left half forward. Marshall lost it in the air. Spills down to Hine for the Bombers. Got a handball out to Caldwell. Then off to Parrish. Centres his kick in hope. Didn't know who was there. Waterman's coming out. Spoiled down in front of him straight to Durham. On the paint of 50. Gives it off. Wanganeen shakes and bakes. Gives it to Hobbs. Martin back to Wanganeen. The son of the Grapes. Misses to the right. He was tackled as he kicked. And the Bombers, another missed chance at the Adelaide Oval. 2-9-21, Port Adelaide 8-4-52. 2 minutes to play in the second quarter on Grandstand AFL.
Just starting to play a little bit better now, Bombers, starting to get a little bit more control of the game. They just need to make the most of these opportunities.
Bonner with the short kick in. found Rosie, comes to the broadcast side of the ground. Ball clears the pack. Hind first to recover for the Bombers. Around on his right foot. Was he out before he kicked it? He was. He just didn't have the spatial awareness, and so it'll be a throw-in just a little forward of the wing for the Bombers.
Well, they've had more inside 50s again, 12 for the quarter, and Port have only had the 8. But once again, Port 4 goals, 2 for a return out of those 8.
So ball will come back into play now. And Draper will go against Hayes, who knocked it down for Port Adelaide. It's taken on the ground there by Perkins. His scrubbed kick forward, only found Burne-Jones for Port Adelaide. He goes back long. Finlayson put up a hand, but McGrath took it as the ball hit the ground. His inside hand pass was awful. Bombers just can't string game plays together, and now the ball's forced into a neutral position. The umpire will take it. He'll ball it up between centre wing and half forward for Port Adelaide.
Coming in, Hayes and Draper. The Port ruck wins it down from behind, straight towards Parrish, though, for the Bombers. Handball back to McGrath. He's under pressure from Pau Pepper. Keeps it in play, but wasn't the best decision because Wines gets a clearance inside 50. Sat up for Drew, just got a hand to it, but couldn't reel it in. And trickles over the back for a boundary throw in left forward pocket, northern end.
I don't understand that, sorry, Aaron. Steve. So Darcy Parish is running towards the boundary and he handballs backwards instead of kicking the ball forward. They've got even numbers ahead of the ball and just puts themselves under undue pressure.
7 to play at the MCG. The Pies by 17 over the Blues will get you there at half time. Off the ruck contest, spills out to Boak. 45 out from goal. He gives it back to Amon. Centres his kick unselfishly and coming across, an outstanding intercept grab in the air. Durham rose up in front of the pack. One of their rising stars, Sam Durham, out of the mid-season draft last year from Richmond. He'll kick across the defensive goal line. Hit up Nick Hind, and Connor Rosie stood off the line on the stand rule. 50-metre penalty to the Bombers as Hind races through the corridor.
Haven't called that much for Essendon players tonight. They stay in the corridor too with a kick forward, just forward of centre for Darcy Parish to take the mark. Parish goes around onto his non-preferred left foot, gets good purchase. Waterman leads out, couldn't take it. Ball was knocked forward and Shield took it. And he was immediately swamped by a couple of tacklers from Port Adelaide, Wines and Rosie. And so we'll get a ball up almost the top of the 50, near centre half forward. Draper just knocks it down forward. Port Adelaide sweep it out wide to Amon. Tried to keep the ball low, hit the legs of Parrish. And that's all she wrote for the first half. Bombers just unable to string play together. Port Adelaide far too efficient. And that shows clearly on the scoreboard. 8-4-52 Port Adelaide. The Bombers 2-9-21.
Goal scorers at the major break. 2 to Dixon, singles to Rosie, Butters, Finlayson, Motlop, Marshall and Pau Pepper. Meanwhile for the Bombers, just the 2 individual goal scorers, Phillips and Andrew McGrath. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Scott Camporelli, Stephen Williams with you over at the MCG. Charlie Curno's just made it an 11-point game between the Pies and the Blues. We'll head there in a moment. Just quickly, gents, your thoughts on the opening half?
Yeah, well, it's been a transition game, really. Essendon, although they've been pretty good around the clearances, Port even it up that quarter to get it back to 14-17 for the quarter, but just too efficient. Port Adelaide, once they go in there, 8 goals, 4 from their 20 inside 50s. The Bombers, 26 inside 50s for 2 goals, 9. So not really getting bang for their buck. But you know, Port Adelaide in terms of metres gained, they've almost 500 metres gained in terms of how they're moving the ball and getting it from one end of the ground to the other. Way too easy for mine, Steve.
Yeah, Bombers just need. They've showed every time that they actually have gone a little bit quicker into their forward line. They've looked dangerous. They've taken a couple of marks and kicked a couple of goals. So that's what Ben Rutten, you would imagine, is telling them at half time is we got to win the ball back and get it, move it in there quickly. 1-on-1 is okay. Take that option and get it in there and see what goes.
So here at the Adelaide Oval, Port Adelaide leading 8-4-52 to 2-9-21, staring down the barrel of their 5th win. The Bombers could be 2-9 by the end of round 11. There is another game happening at the MCG at the moment. Tight one between the Pies and the Blues. Collingwood looking for their 6th win of the season. It'd be an outstanding upset if they can get there. 11-13-79 to 10-8-68. Still 4.5 to play. They're inside Carlton's attacking 50. It's going to be a tight finish on Grandstand AFL. Let's take you there now. Matt Clinch, Brett Sprigg, Brett Delidio, Mark Murphy and Jess Webster.
Out of the air as well. Picked up here though by the Pies. Sidebottom gets it away from Tyler Brown and now kicks up the southern wing. Blues have numbers around the football. Hand pass comes back to Walsh. Can send them back inside forward 50. Where's Curnow? He leaps. Didn't quite get to the football. At the drop, Nick Dacos shares it with Quainer and the Pies can rebound.
Long up to the southern wing where Young and Myercheck are there. It spills to the back. Hewitt's onto it. Kicks Carlton towards 50. Silvani comes out. Howe spoils it down. DeGoey runs onto it. Oh, he's fell into his back. And Collingwood will get some relief on half-back as Jordan DeGoey will get the free kick.
Oh, just kept going with it just that little bit too long, didn't he? Pressure's on.
Collingwood get a chance to take a breath as DeGoey goes wide to the southern wing. Nick Dacos marks wider still. And Steele's Sidebottom has it. Under the Shane Warne stand. Collingwood in no real hurry to move it. 4 goals, 1 apiece in this final term. Long towards half forward. Out came Myercheck. Couldn't take the mark. Cox's tackle seemed over the shoulder against Plowman. He won't take the advantage. And Carlton will take it at left half back.
He does play on quickly now though. Comes slightly inboard now. Cripps ball from behind Maynard at the drop. Getting there to it. Durden goes the fan on Maynard. The umpire said he had Pryor holding the ball. So they'll take the kick through Nick Dacos. It was almost a 2-man tackle in the end, Dacos and Maynard. But Durden took them on and get the ball away. Quaynor has it. In front of the boundary line, southern side. Kicks for distance. Towards right half forward, leaping up. Couldn't quite get the reach in there, Myercheck. Adams on hands and knees to Elliott. Shares it to Goey. 55 from goal. Wheels around. Thumps it high toward the goal square. Lipinski in a contest with Nunes. Umpire spot on the free kick here. Carlton's way for a hold. Jack Nunes has it at fullback. Collingwood still leads by 11.
Time to roll the dice straight down the middle to Chera. The Blues are racing the clock now. Kicks out wide to Silvani. Takes the mark at right half back. Works it over the top to Carroll. Noble off his chase. He's gone.
Hold on.
Welcome to AFL footy and John Noble runs him down. Jack Carroll in his 5th game. Never heard him coming. And once more, great desperation for John Noble.
You've got to use the crowd to your advantage in that sense. It's either you've got heaps of space or you're hot. In that case, you were hot. You've got to know you're hot there.
80,626 fans knew apart from Jack Carroll as Noble got it back from Howe. And now to Josh Dacos, who takes the mark in front of the benches. 29 minutes gone, final term. Collingwood by 11 points. Josh Dacos veers out to the right, gains every millimetre, kicks long towards Cameron, top the Coning pick mark. Put his knee up there and takes an important contested mark.
Untidy kick, seeds ground all the way back to fullback here for O'Brien. Made him work his teammate, comes out to the paint of 50. Nunes lays off the hand pass. They need 2 goals in 2 minutes. Here's Sard, got it from Plowman. Sard then through traffic, on the bounce here for Walsh. He opts to kick, inside forward 50, out there 2-on-1. Silvani up in front, plays on, hand pass to Curnow, top of the goal square, and dumps it into the second tier. Charlie Curnow's got 4. And the Blues close the gap to 5 points. Collingwood 11-13-79. Carlton 11-8-74. Minute left. Goal of difference.
I just wonder if ever there's been a Collingwood chant for the win because the entire crowd has bellowed out the Collingwood. Have they got done by ever doing that? That's the question because there's a minute left. Plenty of time to score.
5 points of difference. It's all set up here for an absolute cracker.
Well, I think they expected Tom De Koning just to take a big hanger at centre half back and then nearly kick a goal the other way. Listen to that crowd. It's amazing.
The 261st battle between Collingwood and Carlton goes down to the last minute. 128 wins apiece. 4 draws and the draws off the table. 5-point lead Collingwood's way. Cameron went early against De Koning. De Koning knocks it Carlton's way. Penalty in there. De Koning tries to dive on the footy. Cripps to Doherty. Hand pass to Walsh. Can he get forward? Runs to 50. Long to the goal mouth. It's offline. Darcy Moore down low and it goes out of play. Up against the right behind post. A boundary throw in. Carlton are deep in attack. They're still alive.
Collingwood by 5 points. 31 gone final term. Forward 50 stoppage for the Blues. Back in it comes. Cameron held out of it. Umpire said play on. De Koning tries to tunnel it away. Silvani bursts through. Hand pass comes wide to Fisher. Turns one way. Off to Nunes. Off a step. Across the goal mouth now, deep to the pocket. Curnow goes up. Moore with him. Ginnivan finds the boundary line. The umpire's going to say let's throw it back in. Collingwood hang on by 5 points. 31.5 played.
Collingwood forwards need to reset here. Even if it comes out, it's going to go back straight back in. Need a contest down the line.
What set play of the Blues got late. Thrown in to Koning and Cameron. De Koning knocks it down. Cripps tried to run in. Maynard's kick is smothered. It comes out to Silvani. He snaps and he misses to the right. He didn't miss by much. 4-point Collingwood lead.
Just can't give up a mark here. 20 seconds to go.
Pendlebury has the kick out. Opts to go by hand to Howe. It was dicey. Howe's kick goes straight up in the air. It'll land at the 50. Adams underneath it. Cripps coming the other way as well. Fisher's hand pass out to only as far as Ginnivan. He's ducking the tackle. The umpire says let's ball it up. 40 out from the Carlton goal. Magpies by 4 points.
Scotty Pendlebury, what are you doing?
Thrown up. Cripps does the right work. Cameron knocks it down. Walsh can't get clear. Hand pass way. Noble gathers. The siren sounds and Collingwood hang on. What a thrilling finish at the MCG in front of 80,000. Craig McRae gets the bragging rights as Carlton suffer their third loss of the season. The Magpies by 4 points.
What a finish at the MCG. Collingwood 11-13-79, Carlton 11-9-75. The Pies' 6th win of the season puts them just outside the 8 on percentage in front of 80,000 fans at the MCG. Not quite the margin here at the Adelaide Oval. Port Adelaide leading Essendon by 31 points at half-time. 8-4-52 to 2-9-21. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Stephen Williams, Scott Camperelli with you. We'll break down what we've seen so far and what we're expecting next very shortly. But for now, it's time to take the latest from the ABC Newsroom.
ABC News with Glenn Lauder. The ABC's election analyst Anthony Green believes the final 3 seats still in doubt following last week's federal election could be called tomorrow. Electoral Commission staff have spent today processing declaration envelopes in preparation for a final count tomorrow. Labor needs to win 1 more seat to be able to govern with a majority, and the ABC currently has it a likely winner in McNamara in Melbourne's inner south. The Liberals are currently slightly ahead in Deakin in Melbourne's outer east and in Gilmore on the New South Wales south coast. Ukraine is intensifying its plea for longer-range weaponry from the west as the Russian campaign in the east makes slow gains. Here's Larry Buttrose.
The Russian advance in eastern Ukraine grinds on. Since refocusing its campaign on the Donbass region several weeks ago and gaining full control of Mariupol, the Russian command now appears intent on concrete gains. Russian forces have taken a key rail hub, and Ukraine has signalled it may have to withdraw some of its forces in the east at risk of encirclement. Russian forces may now be positioning to take full control of all of the region of Luhansk.
South Australia and Western Australia are the latest states to make flu vaccines free for residents. South Australians have been able to roll their sleeves up for free jabs from today. They'll be available in both states until June the 30th. Queensland and New South Wales will have already made similar provisions, while Victoria's Premier Daniel Andrews says there's still more work to be done before deciding if his state will follow suit. ABC News.
ABC Sport now has its very own newsletter, and we'd be pumped to have you on board.
The ABC of Sport will provide a wrap of all the best stuff that's happening in sport every week.
Simply go to abc.net.au/connect
and get ready for a sport hit in your inbox every Friday.
Get on board with the ABC of Sport newsletter
for content that makes you think
or allows you not to.
This is Sir Doug Nicholls' Round.
Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Charlie Dixon for his second of the afternoon. In he comes and sends it straight enough. Butters was free. Inside 50, he goes with a kick. Marshall from behind on Ridley. Forced him under the ball, took the mark. Have a look at goal. Todd Marshall, in he comes. And doesn't have a problem at all.
Wines 1-2 with Rosie. Just keeps going. Chips it over the top inside 50. It'll sit up beautifully for Motlop. Takes the uncontested mark. 40 out, straight in front. The Larrakia man, Stephen Motlop in Sir Doug Nicholls' Indigenous round. Didn't get the chance to kick a goal last week. Can he do it here from 45? Never in doubt. 30-year-old journeyman Andrew Phillips marches in.
Yes.
Outstanding kick. Straight as. First goal for the Bombers at the Adelaide Oval. Farrell have to play on. Race inside. Bang it long on the left. 2-on-1 against Finlayson, so he spoils it down straight to Boak. Got it out towards Powpepper. He's under pressure. Shrugs the tackle. Snaps on the left. Magnificent finish.
Caldwell ducked the tackle, slipped a hand pass back. McGrath came flying through, went straight to goal with a kick. Brilliant finish.
The Sir Doug Nicholls round.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Great to have your company on Grandstand AFL. The conclusion to round 11. Port Adelaide and Essendon, the home side, up by 31 points, 8-4-52. Plays 2-9-21. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Stephen Williams, Scott Camporelli with you. The rain has arrived as well. So wet weather footy to come in this second half, which won't favour the Bombers, down by 31 points. What a day of footy we've seen. St Kilda defeating North Melbourne by 53 points. Brad Hill had 33 disposals and a goal. Max King with 3 of his own as well. The best for the Roos was Jai Simpkins. So the Saints with their 8th win of the year. The Roos with their 11th loss. On the live ladder, that puts St Kilda in the top 4 to conclude the round. And the reason they'll stay there is because Carlton just lost to Collingwood at the MCG by 4 points. Jack Silvani had a chance to kick the winner. Ended up snapping a behind. Charlie Curnow had 4 for the game. Sam Walsh, 35 touches, the best for Collingwood. Jack Crisp with 27 in their win. A couple of individual goal scorers as well. And Jacob Wiedering was subbed out early with a shoulder injury after a collision with Jordan De Goey. And the Sandford W over at Norwood Oval, the grand final today. North Adelaide are premiers after defeating Sturt by 18 points. 7-6-48, playing 4-6-30 there. A couple of games in the NRL today as well. I should say just these are the couple of games in the NRL today. The Dragons defeating the Bulldogs by 10 points, 34-24. At the moment, 78 minutes played between the Raiders and the Eels. The visitors are trailing by 28 points. That's Parramatta, by the way. Trailing by 8 points. No, leading by 8 points. 28-20. Got to get my maths right, Crossy.
Yeah, rugby league's so strange,
isn't it?
It's
been a long weekend. 28-20, Parramatta leading Canberra by 8 points. The Super Netball 2 games today completed. The Vixens defeated the Lightning by 4 goals, 64-60. And the Giants defeated the Thunderbirds 59-50, so a 9-goal margin there. Does put Adelaide's season in a bit of jeopardy. The ladder's pretty tight. They're still inside the top 4 at the moment, but there's only one win separating 3rd and 8th. It's a top 4 system, and they've still got to play the Vixens and the Fever. So it's going to be a tough finish to come for the Adelaide Thunderbirds, who are just inside the top 4 at the moment. We're waiting for the second half to get underway. Port Adelaide just making their way back out onto the ground, greeted with some wet weather. We were expecting a storm tonight. At the moment, it's just a light drizzle, so we'll see if it does get any worse. And the text line, if you'd like to get in touch with us across the evening, 0437 774 774. We've touched a lot, Steve, on how poor the Bombers have been. Have you seen some good signs from Port Adelaide?
Yeah, I think their ball movement's been good. They've been able to exit their back 50 fairly comfortably down through the ground, and they've been able to use the ball well inside their forward 50. I'm not sure exactly how many inside 50 marks they've taken, but they've taken quite a few. So
10-6, Steve.
10-6. So yeah, 10 and a half a footy's pretty good. So they'd be happy with that. But everything changes now. Port was certainly too good for the Bombers in the dry, so now it's a different sort of game, isn't it? They play them in the wet now. The Bombers certainly like to throw the ball around a bit, so that may favour Port, but it'll be interesting to see how both sides adjust.
Well, it might actually straighten Essendon up. I mean, Ben Rutten and Blake Carousel, they're experienced coaches. They might actually go, let's cut that out. It was dry early. Let's try our one wood. That's not going to happen now. So let's get it on. Let's force the ball forward and see whether we can actually ask Port Adelaide a question, because essentially, time and forward half, Essendon are in front. They're in front in a couple of categories. So they're actually, barring defensively, which they've been poor once again, they've actually in the game in terms of the pure numbers. Now, I know the numbers can sometimes be deceiving, but it's really just their efficiency. I mean, Port Adelaide are going at 40% convert inside forward 50 for goals. Essendon are going at 8%. So if they can actually, double that or at least try and improve that and restrict Port Adelaide's inside 50 count, they can somewhat try and work themselves back into this game, but at three-quarter time.
The reality basically is, though, that the Bombers' game isn't suited to the wet. And as you say, their one wood is flicking the ball around and trying to move the ball quickly. I mean, can you make that adjustment? Will it help them?
Well, I remember, if I go back to the coaching days, Crossy, where I remember we played the Western Bulldogs here. It was a really wet, slippery night. I don't know if you remember or you called that game, but we went into the game going, let's just go territory, and the Bulldogs still went with their one wood and tried to flick the ball around, and it just played into our hands. We just kept pushing the ball forward. We ended up winning the game quite comfortably, and after the game, Luke Beveridge did say, he said, we just went back and we just couldn't get ourselves out of that mode of flicking the ball around because we're so used to playing in those conditions. So, yeah, but, at the end of the day, these guys are AFL players. I'm not sure it's that difficult to go, instead of handball, to kick the ball forward. It's not that difficult, in my opinion, but Steve, you might argue differently.
I'm the same, particularly in these conditions. But, yeah, the likes of Merritt and McGrath, Parrish, they tend to like to handball the ball, don't they? So, yeah, whether they can adjust, we'll see very quickly in the piece. But clearances are going to be so important now just to win territory out of the game. So the Bombers, Port were able to even it up a little bit in that quarter to make it only 3 the difference at half time, but it's going to be a really important stat in the second half.
Well, the clear one, Steve, is centre bounce, so 9-2 in favour of Essendon. So if they can get that territory battle and lock it in with these wet conditions, that might go a long way once again, just to maybe seeing if they can hit the scoreboard a bit more and also restrict Port Adelaide.
The voices of Scott Camporelli and Stephen Williams, Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross with you as well. Let's check in downstairs with Liz Walsh and just see how heavy the rain is at the moment.
Yeah, it's decently wet down here now. It's not super heavy, but it is definitely steady raining. Most of the people who were sitting behind me, and there were lots of them before, most of them have taken cover, and I'm now sitting here almost alone in my poncho, trying to stay as dry as possible, which is not easy at all.
She's a tough cookie, Liz Walsh, downstairs on Grandstand AFL.
Aaron's got the rug out and he's got the heater on, Liz. He's giving you nothing down there.
31-point lead to Port Adelaide, 8-4-52, plays 2-9-21. Earlier today, Collingwood defeating Carlton by 4 points, St Kilda defeating North Melbourne by 53 points. Can the Bombers show us some sort of fight after their equal lowest half-time score this season? At 6 behinds at quarter time, their first goal came at the 11-minute mark of the second term. They've got just the 2 for the game. Port Adelaide surging to their 5th win of the year. They won't be able to make the top 8 by the end of the round ahead of their bye, but at least they can push close to it. They'll be a game out now with the Western Bulldogs, Richmond and Collingwood ahead of them. Percentage at the moment stuck at 107% in 11th position.
Well, they've already gone smaller, Aaron, ahead of the ball, so Draper's starting off the ground.
Third term underway. Here's Neil Cross.
Last game of round 11, and already the slop has had an effect. No clean disposal out of the middle, and it finally comes to Perkins for Essendon with a free kick for a high shot. So he just drives deep inside forward 50. Jones went up high. Ball came to ground. On the ground, it was right of all people. Big 2 metre Peter who got a hand pass out. Now he makes a good solid tackle. Houston released the ball. It's into traffic again though. Lots of numbers around the ball and just slapped forward out of the 50 by Port Adelaide. Perkins went in, couldn't take the ball with him. Now he's got a chance. Did a spin when there was nobody there anyway. Released a hand pass to Hind. Hind for the Bombers. Sends it into the scoreboard pocket off hands. Picked up by Jones. Hand pass out came from Smith to Hind. Then back towards Heppel. Pushed as he kicked the ball. Dropped by Rosie. Still it's in the washing machine. Out it comes finally to Hind. Drops it inside 50. And Jones takes a mark. 45-degree angle, 45 out. We're going to have a whole half of this.
There's a lot of fumbling. There's more fumbling in that 5 minutes than there has been in the whole game. So players finding it hard to handle the ball. The Bombers actually look like they're handling a little bit better than Port Adelaide.
Oh, it's heavier now. You can see it now.
Harry Jones has got to kick this every bit of 50 metres. And judging by the way the rain is coming down, the breeze is against him as well. The Bombers have been appalling in front of goal tonight. They've got 2-9 on the board. Jones comes in and sends it long and hard, and he's kicked the goal.
He wouldn't read about it.
He's cut it through the rain.
They couldn't kick one through a barn door in the first half, and they've nailed one in torrential downpour of rain, and he's kicked it from 40.
Bombers 3-9-27 trail Port Adelaide 8-4-52. A minute down in the third quarter. Liz Walsh, how are you going?
Can confirm it is now absolutely pouring. The raindrops are so huge, I can see they're sort of splashing, and then the splashes have splashes.
It's like a pool then.
Stay safe down there, Liz.
It's a good word by Nick Hine too, that he could have easily blasted away, but he just held his kick back and was able to find Jones, and what a great kick by the young guy.
25-point margin the way of the home side. Tossed up in the middle. Phillips wins it down straight to Zach Butters. Kick smothered by Merritt. Gathers the footy for the Bombers. Handball a bit hot for Phillips. Did well to slap it over his head to Parrish. Quick kick goes up and down. Amon can fly. Can't reel it in up against Durham. Sliding in, Phillips knocked it away from his teammate. Now Amon goes in. He can't get it out. Parrish with a quick clearance inside 50. It'll sit up for Alia. Takes the mark on the paint. Right half back. The Power kicking to the Riverbank stand end in this third term. He'll kick along the boundary line up towards the benches. Front position went through the hands of Waterman at the back. Pal Pepper had a fumble. Off his boot, it'll roll over the boundary line. Umpire's given the benefit of the doubt. It'll be tossed back into play. True centre wing.
I think with a name like Waterman, he'd be suited tonight.
Well played.
Ball back into play from the boundary umpire.
Is that a dad joke?
In it comes. Phillips knocks it forward. Parrish can run onto it for the Bombers. Turns back and then couldn't get the kick away. Was slung in the tackle by Butters. Free kick to the Port Adelaide.
Ollie Wines, he called play on.
So, play on, no advantage. Ball goes out of play. Rosie disputing what went on.
Oh, it's just silly by Ollie. He didn't need to do it.
And you get a quick look at the replay. Yeah, he picked it up and decided to go, and then looked at the umpire. And it's a throw-in.
One down by Hayes. Quick clearance around the body from Wines. It bounces over the pack. Makes his way to right half forward, but waiting back there for the Bombers is Hind, who sold his teammate Kelly into immediate trouble. Just crunched in the tackle by Pal Pepper. He's an absolute bull. He saw red. And now it's a boundary throw-in.
It's two dad jokes in a row.
Right half forward, centre wing. Out on this broadcast side of the ground, the Power by 25 points. The Bombers were the only goal so far in this third term. Toss back into play. Phillips won it down looking for Rosie. Off the deck, he tried to trickle it towards half forward. Waiting there was Hind. Threw it on the boot up towards the eastern side. It bounces in front of Hobbs and also Wanganeen. They can use each other with a couple of Shepherds to head up to right half forward. Now Hobbs high inside 50 looking for Jones. Jonas just smashes it over the boundary line. And it'll be tossed back into play in front of the scoreboard right forward pocket. Essendon looking lively.
They are, aren't they? They look better already, so they're just playing a pretty basic sort of wet weather game and gaining a lot of territory.
At the northern end, toss back into play. Hayes wins it down with a double slap. Coming through, Perkins was wrapped up in the tackle. Farrell loses it as well. Was he slung after he lost it? Yes, says the umpire. Free kick to Port Adelaide, defensive 50. Leading by 25 points, I should say. They've led the majority of the game. Kane Farrell with a long kick up towards the eastern side. It sits up for Marshall. He's beaten in the marking contest by Ridley. One of the four inclusions for the Bombers. Marks on the logo, centre wing, eastern side. Kicks on the 45 towards the boundary line. Finds Heppel. Marks uncontested, the Bombers skipper. Looking for a few options. Heppel heads long inside 50. A pack awaits. Alia rises with the fist. Goes up and down. Waterman came through. Couldn't claim it. Held up on the pain of attacking 50 for the Bombers. A warm welcome to our listeners joining us from the MCG. The ball is inside Essendon's attacking 50. Port Adelaide trying to clear it out. Burn Jones threw a boot at it, as did Robbie Gray. It's wet weather footy. They're just surging forward. Trickles into space at right half forward for the Power, picked up by the Bombers. They're trailing by 25 points at the moment. Handball inside from Laverde. He sold Merritt into immediate trouble. Pal Pepper spears him out of the air, but he got a handball away. In the centre square, Martin can pick it up. Handball back to Parrish. Now Shield on the 45. He looks up towards left half forward. Sitting underneath it. Outstanding mark taken by Durham, who had Amon all over him. Too far out to score. Durham heads towards the top of the goal square. Alia's in the hole against Waterman. Hayes stuck a hand out. Spilled towards Harrison Jones on return. Got a handball out, cut off by Burn-Jones. Underneath it, Smith rips it out for the Bombers. In front of Wright, now Waterman retreats back to Durham. 30 out from goal, left forward pocket. Uses Wanganeen, then Smith. No one wants to kick it towards goal. Smith finally just has to. Centres his kick up towards the top of the goal square, and Hayes sits underneath it. Takes the intercept mark. We can catch a breather here. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Stephen Williams, Scott Camporelli, Liz Walsh with you. It was a dry opening half. Port led by 20 at quarter time, 31 at the half. The Bombers have the only goal of this third term, and the rain is bucketing down now at the Adelaide Oval.
Laverty with the intercept mark for Essendon. Sends them back. Top of the goals. Comes off hands. Hand pass back from Butters for Port Adelaide. He went back to Burn-Jones. Cleared it out to the eastern side of the ground. Picked up by Marshall on his non-preferred left foot. Just gains ground. Sends it out near the boundary line. It's over. Will it be? No. It wasn't insufficient intent.
Geez, I've seen worse than that paid.
Definitely worse than that paid.
Wasn't to be. We'll get a throw in.
Common sense, is that the word over the weekend?
It is.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? It's come into the vernacular. At quarter time, it was Port by 20 points, half time by 31. Right now, it stands at 25 in favour of the Power.
And off the ruck contest, Parrish can't keep it in the field of play, so we'll try again out on the eastern side. The Bombers had 6 behinds in the opening quarter, didn't kick their first goal until the 11-minute mark of the second. And as Crossy said, a 25-point margin. Let's check in with Liz Walsh downstairs.
I'm keeping an eye on Essendon's Jake Kelly. The Essendon doctor, just ran out onto the ground and had long conversations with him, but really Jake Kelly was just ignoring him and ran away. So we'll just see what's going on there.
Meanwhile, on the outer side, a quick clearance from Port Adelaide finds the chest of McGrath. Right half back, kicking to the northern end at the moment. Races away through the eastern wing, heads up to right half forward. Sport down in the pack by Clury against Wright and tumbles over the boundary line. Steve, Campo, what have you made so far of the opening 2 and a bit quarters?
2 and a bit quarters. Well, the Bombers looked out of it in the dry in the first half, but they certainly looked the more lively both sides in this half, having the ball better, and the ball's lived in their forward 50 for the first 8 minutes of this quarter.
Well, Port Adelaide haven't had inside 50 yet.
In the second half. And the ball just cleared away by Dumont, and I think it might have been out on the full. It is, as he cleared it off the ruck contest. So it'll be free kick for Essendon, and they'll find Parrish loose, 70 from goal. He sends it high. It's up towards Phillips. The ball comes to ground. Off hands Robbie Gray. Chipping in, normally playing in the forward line. Sends it outside, defensive 50, but it's picked up by Kelly. He's going to send the Bombers back in again, looking for Phillips. Again off hands. At the back was Clury. Tried to clear the area. Durham came across, smothered the ball over the line. 20 around from the goal face for the Bombers in the left forward pocket in a saturated Adelaide Oval. And we played 9 minutes into this third term.
Well, that's 9 inside 50s to 0 for the quarter for Essendon, so well on top.
Toss back in inside Essendon's attacking 50. Draper got it down. Amon with the volley out of the air. Heads towards the square, and McGrath's waiting back there. Inside 50, he looks for Wright. Cleared over his head. Parrish at the back. Keeps it in the field of play. He's had plenty of touches so far this game, Darcy Parrish. This one wasn't a clean one. Goes again. Gives it to McGrath. Kicks outside to Merritt. Wasn't 15 on the paint of 50. So he'll spear it inside. About the same distance, but this time it's paid. Nick Martin has the footy. 40 out, 45-degree angle to the right. Parrish has 29 disposals early in the third.
He's racked them up in this quarter. He's been everywhere. His ability to win the ball and give it to his teammates has been terrific. This goal is all because of his first and second efforts.
Goal scorers so far in the game for those just joining us. Dixon with 2, singles to Rosie, Butters, Finlayson, Motlop, Marshall, Palpepper, Phillips and McGrath. Can Nick Martin join them? From 45, the kick is looking great. Back-to-back goals for the Bombers to start the third. And there's some life in this game. A 19-point margin. 4-9-33. The Bombers trail Port Adelaide 8-4-52. Wet weather footy at the Adelaide Oval on Ghana land. Liz Walsh is downstairs.
The reigning Brownlow medalist, Ollie Wines, he's just run from the ground, looking a bit proppy, went straight onto the trainer's mats, and he's having his left calf, I think, mainly worked over.
Well, they've just handled the conditions much better, haven't they, Steve? We spoke about it, that potentially might work in their favour in terms of not over-possessing the ball, which they haven't. And when they've been able to lower their eyes, they've backed their skills like we've seen there. 2 goals for the quarter, 10 inside 50s to 0. They're well on top.
Bombers have only won 10 quarters this season. Could it be 11? Maybe even 12. They might even win the game. Out of the middle, they're going to get possession again. Reverting up the hand pass inside. Bouncing the ball was McGrath. Forward hand pass was awful. Bounce was good. Hand pass awful. Jones picked it up. Gave it to Draper. Pulled the kick. The big ruckman. And Waterman stands up and takes a chest mark. 20 metres out, just to the left of the goals.
We saw the Bombers against Hawthorn, didn't we? Earlier in the year, come back from the dead when they looked like they weren't in the contest, and their effort has been terrific so far this quarter. Just getting the ball forward, and it's amazing. A quick kick, forwards are normally in the position to take the mark, and Waterman has the opportunity now to bring the Bombers within a couple of goals.
Still with 9 goals, 3. He had a shot at goal, a set shot in the first half, kicked it out on the full. This time, straight over the goal umpire's head. Bombers are really in this match now. After they trailed by 38 points in the second term and by 31 at half-time, they now find themselves just 13 points down. Essendon 5-9-39, Port Adelaide 8-4-52 on Grandstand AFL. Your experts are Stephen Williams and Scott Camporelli.
50 disposals to 16, so Port Adelaide are getting obliterated, not getting their hands on the footy. 11 inside 50s to 0.
Well, it's a contested possession again, Steve, in the ground ball. So 12 at Port Adelaide, 22 Essendon, and the ground ball 8 to 16 in Essendon's favour. So they've really adapted to the conditions really well.
The last 4 goals either side of half-time for the Bombers. In the middle, one down by Draper. He goes and tries to get his own footy as well. Shield comes to assist. Handball wasn't clean. Bloke off the deck. Kicks it high into the 50 for the power. Bounces off Marshall. Dixon comes through. Gives it to Rosie. Snaps from 40. Too much curl. Minus score on the left-hand side. Power fans finding their voice. A lot of them have retreated to some shading, but they've still got the lead. 14 points at the moment over the Bombers. 8-5-53 rather, playing 5-9-39. 14-point margin, and the kick out of defensive 50 wasn't a great one from Essendon. Ridley went long, and it's out on the full at right half forward for the Power.
Now, you said that spectators were looking for some shading, but I don't know that it's the sun they're worried about. So here's Cleary with the free kick for Port Adelaide. Drives inside 50. Dixon went up. Ball straight through his hands. It found its way to Powell Pepper, and over the shoulder he has a shot at goal for the minus score. Was always narrow and, in fact, just inside the behind post. So the minus score makes it a 15-point game in favour of Port Adelaide. Ridley comes out this time long to the same direction, but not over the boundary line.
Falls down to Devon Smith around the body. Popped up and down, didn't travel too long. Heavy collision. Knocked down poor Tex Wangdeen. He's been very lively so far, considering most of this year we've seen him as the medical sub. The ball's rolled over the boundary line in the meantime. Wangdeen had a couple of chances at goal, yet to kick one at the Adelaide Oval, but I imagine Gavin's somewhere in the stands watching on.
Might be in his stand.
Toss back into play. Draper with a double fist down. There was a free kick in the ruck contest going his way for a hold. And the ball wasn't given back to him cleanly. Umpire's blown the whistle and will not pay the 50.
Common sense.
Common sense. That's the theme of the round, isn't it?
Have you read the rule book? I've never seen that word in the rule book.
Don't want to talk about it, Campo. Bad memories of Friday night.
I reckon you've had your time.
Just behind the logo, Draper heads up towards half forward. Early rise from Martin, slipped through his hands. Hobbs is at the back though for the Bombers. Gives it to Parrish, then Heppel. They're retreating with their handballs. Shield gives it off. Now Kelly loads up inside 50. Right flew, as did Jones. Neither could claim it, and they nearly cleaned each other up as well. The fall of the ball. Martin's wrapped up. Came out quickly and kick from Butters. Powell Pepper bursts his way through Draper. Bounces off each other. Essendon with a quick kick up towards half forward. Shield can go again inside 50. Nudged out of it, Cleary by right. It clears the pack and rolls over the boundary line in front of the scoreboard. That was a hard hit.
Well done by Big Draper. How good was that?
They both are okay, Powell Pepper and Draper, but gee, they went for it.
That's three big hits Sam Powell-Pepper has dished out so far in this third quarter.
Ball back into play. In that scoreboard pocket. Hobbs threw his hands out, wasn't given a free kick. Durham had it, released it. Picked up by Aaliyah for Port Adelaide. Clears the area, not quite. Smith takes the mark. Rosie said, well, I touched it. Smith says, well, I'm going to play on. Booms it towards goal. It's wide. It's just inside the behind post for the minus score. So that makes it a 14-point game. Bombers 5-10-40. Port Adelaide 8-6-54. 16 minutes down in the third term at the Adelaide Oval.
Port yet to kick a goal in the third after leading by 31. And the clearance will come back the way of the Bombers as well. It's sat up behind in the centre square. Not a great kick from Bonner. On the 45, Hines spots Hobbs all alone at left half forward. He can go. Heads towards the top of the goal square. 3-on-3 awaits. Aaliyah sticks a hand out, knocked it straight down. Quick kick through for a major. The Bombers strike front and square. Sam Durham was waiting and capitalised. 5 unanswered goals either side of half-time, and we're back down to single digits. The Bombers soaring at the Adelaide Oval, 6-10-46. The Power, 8-6-54. 17 and a half played in the third. On Grandstand AFL, Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Stephen Williams and Scott Camporelli.
Don't we try and make the game hard, Steve? I mean, it's taken wet weather to actually straighten Essendon up, to be fair. So once again, they went slightly wide, which is fine. They had an overlap, and then they just hit it to the top of the square. They didn't go too deep. Then they asked Port defenders in Jonas and Aaliyah and Clury against some of the big guys, and then Durham just was front and square like you should be.
Well, with all the rain, you could say it's a swim through, and they're having a negative split. The Bombers, they're coming from behind, but out of the middle, beautiful kick by Finlayson. Out in front of the lead from Marshall, and he's taken the mark towards the left forward pocket, maybe 25, 30 metres out, and he'll back up outside 50 to have a shot at goal.
Yeah, good word by Travis Boak. He had the pack coming down on him, and he was able to just punch the ball, and Finlayson hadn't moved from the rucking contest, was able to gain possession, and then a really nice kick to Marshall.
So Marshall starts near the boundary line, about 3 or 4 metres in. Comes in on a wet night now and sliding it off the side of the boot. And was that touched in the end? Yes, it was by Phillips out in the right forward pocket. So he's kicked it from the left side of the field into the right forward pocket when he was aiming at the goals. That's how slippery the ball is now. It was out of bounds. We'll get a throw in.
Surprised he didn't actually kick that one around his body. He was in the perfect position for a right footer to just curl it around.
8-point lead to the Power. Tossed inside, back into play inside 50 for the home side. Off the ruck contest, spills down to Farrell. Had a fumble, went again. Handball wasn't clean. Boak tries to wrench it out. Spilled down to Motlop. He's immediately gang tackled. Hine coming in. Also Caldwell. Ball up to come. 45 out. Slide angle to the right. Quick reset. Hayes in the contest up against Phillips. Phillips wins it down. Went straight towards Drew, who applied a tackle that was heavy on Caldwell. And now below the knees, so kicking in danger, free kick going the way of Nick Hines. So the Bombers escape danger in defensive 50. Hine plays on with no one on the mark. Heads long towards centre wing, broadcast side. Right flies, went straight through his hands. Hobbs was waiting though, uses shield. Now the skipper Heppel around the body, tried to kick it down the line, diving in, just getting a finger to it was Marshall. And it's carried over the boundary line to be tossed back into the field of play.
It was actually a smart kick because Jonas was down the line. They would have got the ball back, so they just got a little bit more field position.
Yeah, I think he was intending to keep it further in, just in front of his players so they could run onto it. Boundary umpire throws it in though. Phillips gets it down. Waterman slung to ground in the tackle. Ball released. Boak picked it up. Gave it to Butters. Along the boundary line he goes with a long kick. Coming from behind, knocking it over was Ridley for the Bombers. So we'll get a throw in. It's ahead of centre wing for Port Adelaide, but only just. And it's a 8-point lead for the Power.
Disposal numbers in the third, 70 to the Bombers, 29 to the Power. And after they led by 31 at the major break, Port, it's down to 8. Toss back into play, sliding on his knees. Butters gets a handball out, cut off by Caldwell, gave it to Hobbs, was wrapped up by Drew without it. Begging for the free, didn't receive it. Now the ball's held up on the logo. Centre wing western side. Bombers kicking to the left of the radio dial, the northern end, Cathedral side. Phillips slaps it down towards the centre square. Hine couldn't get there before Motlop threw a boot at it. Sat up nicely at half forward to Finlayson. Sliding in, caught it low to ground, plays on, up towards the left forward pocket. Dumont's out in space. Marks uncontested. 40 out, tight angle to the left. He wanted to move it on, didn't have enough options ahead of him, so he'll go back on the mark and take a shot at goal.
That was really good spread. I watched him from the stoppage. He was the corridor wing, and as soon as that ball got hacked forward, he just took off.
The Formeroo has just one goal in power colours, looking to make it two. It's going to be hard work in the wet. It's carrying long, starting right and tapped back into the field of play. Outstanding work. Dixon knocked it down to Hayes at the top of the square.
There's a point.
Oh, it's going to be a point. It'll snap through. The crowd rose with it. The Bombers get away with one. 9-point lead now to the power. And Essendon looked to capitalise while everyone had stopped. Quick clearance up to left half back.
Ball near the boundary line. Fell back to the Durham's kick down the line with off the left foot. Got away from Jones. Picked up by Byrne-Jones for Port Adelaide. Was met late. He kicked it out on the full. And the umpire says it will be a free kick down the ground for Port Adelaide. Robbie Gray will be the recipient. Byrne-Jones was met by not just one but two, and I think it was the second bump that he received. It was too late. So Robbie Gray at right half forward, plays on, kicks it inside 50 and high. Dixon comes out, got hands to the ball, but it slipped through. Hine picks it up for Essendon, just clears the area. Intercept marked by Cleary. Goes across the ground immediately to centre half forward. Good kick finds Burton. Burton at the front end of the centre square for Port Adelaide. Huge long kick down towards the goal face off hands, and the Bombers take it across the line through McGrath. So 23 minutes down in the third quarter. And it's now a 10-point game in favour of Port Adelaide. They led by 31 at half-time.
They just showed the replay of the Dixon one. Definitely over the line for a point, Aaron.
At a defensive 50, messy football on the eastern side, but Drew somehow gets it out to Rosie. 1-2 with Houston, darts through centre wing, pushed as he kicked it as it sits up towards left half forward. Dixon's running, crunches Phillips, completely missed the footy. Farrell comes through off the bounce, gives it off to Drew. Centres his kick to half forward. Now Butters spots a couple of open targets in the right forward pocket. Take your pick. Trent Dumont will receive it. Robbie Gray left it for him. And Port Adelaide will get another set shot. 45-degree angle to the right, 35 out. Trent Dumont missed on the left. Can he get it from the right?
Probably be testing his distance again. He's not the longest kick, so an important one for Port Adelaide, though. The Bombers have certainly upped their work rate. Port haven't been able to go with them, but the last 5 minutes, Port have been a little bit better.
Short run up, but the kick is brilliant. Never in doubt. The home fans find their voice in the wet. Port Adelaide finally answer back. Their 9th goal of the evening puts them up by 16 points. 9-8-62 plays the Bombers 6-10-46. 24 played in the third. On Grandstand AFL, your experts Stephen Williams and Scott Camporelli.
Well, Essendon just had this sway in that first probably 15-20 minutes. They didn't know they had 11 inside 50s to nothing, and then it's Port Adelaide have probably had the last half a dozen, to be fair, return and repeat inside 50s. So they've just built some pressure again. Dumont's had 2 shots on goal, and Port Adelaide have just worked themselves back into the game.
So what a match it's turned into. Didn't look like it was going to be this good. Phillips clears the ball from the centre for the Bombers, but Bonner takes the mark at centre half-back. Hand pass off to Burton. Shank the kick high towards centre wing. Amon and Durham. And the ball came to Durham. He hand passed it back inside to Merritt. Merritt on centre wing finds Parrish. Quick hand pass off. They'll go inside 50, the Bombers. Not the greatest of kicks, and disposal by Hobbs. It comes to Port Adelaide. They'll clear away. Welcome to all our listeners joining us from the NRL coverage on Sport Digital. This is Grandstand AFL. What a contest we've got at halftime. Port Adelaide was up by 31 points over the Bombers. The rains come. The Bombers have hit back. It's now a 16-point margin in favour of the home side, Port Adelaide.
Messy footy out on the eastern side as well. Port trying to get out of defensive 50 and off a couple of hands will get a boundary throw in. Aaron Bryan's Neil Cross, Stephen Williams, Scott Camporelli with you. Knocked down rather in rock contest by Phillips, who then tried to soccer off the deck against Pal Pepper. There's a holding free kick coming back the way of the home side. Port Adelaide at left half back have it through Ryan Burton. We know he can bang it long. Does so again, all the way up the wing to half forward. Finlayson pushed Heppel out of it, takes the mark. No free kick, but called to play on. He stepped off his line. Rushes it inside 50 with a high ball. Reid brought it down against Marshall, then gathers the footy for the Bombers. Hands it off to Durham, then to Caldwell. Looks out on the 45 towards the boundary line. Spotted. Oh, gee, that's an awful hit on Harrison Jones. Thankfully, he's popped up okay and received the free kick against Jonas, who's got a bit of contact from McGrath. He came in to let him know about it. A bit of that forced intensity from the Bombers we saw last week. No one really joined McGrath in it, though. Jones has it left half back for Essendon. Down the line on the western side. Spotted Phillips. Slipped out of his hands in the contest with Cleary. At the back. Good handball from Waterman. Found its way to Wanganeen. Then Hine pops it over the top inside 50. Kick works. Perkins will take it. Tight angle. Left forward pocket. 45 out from goal.
Nick Hines had 10 this quarter. He's been the player that's really linked up and provided the spark through the midfield.
So Perkins, still looking for his first of the contest, will open the angle from 48, shanks it off the side of the boot. Might work okay. Sets up at the centre of the attacking 50. Wright can't gather. Taps it out towards Parrish and tackled as he kicks it through for a minor score on the right-hand side. Bombers trailing by 15 now. 6-10-46. 6-11-47. There we go. 9-8-62. We've still got just over a minute left in this third term on Grandstand AFL, and the clearing kick from Port Adelaide, which came from Dan Houston, is knocked off hands over the boundary line on the broadcast side.
So Port Adelaide steadied late in the quarter. It was 4 unanswered goals before Port Adelaide finally responded through Jamont at the 24-minute mark. Ball comes back into play. Pal Pepper, makeshift ruckman, got it down. Parrish took it away, and then the hand pass went off to Martin, who launches to the goals, and it's away to the right for the minor score for the Bombers. So he bombed one in, and it's a 14-point game as we approach three-quarter time.
That was terrific work off that ruck throw in then, just to get the ball out of the back. Darcy Parrish once again with his hands cutting Port Adelaide apart.
Long kick out of defensive 50 from Houston, up the spine. Contest in the square. There's a holding free kick going Essendon's way again. Laverty to receive it up against Dixon. Plays on. Bangs it up towards the top of the goal square. Jones gets a run at it. Can't claim it. Knocked it down brilliantly though to Hobbs. Now Parrish kick is smothered. Amon came across in the left forward pocket. Tries to gather the footy as well, but can't cleanly. Boundary throwing to come. Northern end. Bombers attacking 50. 14 points the margin. Still time for a score as we approach the 30-minute mark on Grandstand AFL.
So, not too far around from the goal face. Ball comes back in. Draper had the best of it, took it out of the ruck contest. He sent it forward, but Cleary, acting as a goalkeeper, if you like, took the mark, dropped it in short. Alier for Port Adelaide. Again, they just drop it in short and keep control through Boak with the mark. In the right back pocket on this broadcast side of the Adelaide Oval. Soaked by a lot of rain in the last half hour. And what a quarter from the Bombers. They're in the contest at three-quarter time after they trailed by 31 at half-time. 4-1 in that quarter. It's Port Adelaide 9-8-62. Essendon 6-12-48.
Goal scorers at three-quarter time for the Power, 2 to Dixon, singles to Pal Pepper, Marshall, Motlop, Finlayson, Butters and Dumont. For the Bombers, all individual for them, Waterman, Martin, Phillips, Jones, Durham and McGrath. Tight finish coming up at the Adelaide Oval to conclude round 11. Wet weather football. It's Port Adelaide by 14 points over the Bombers. Earlier today, Collingwood defeating Carlton by 4 at the MCG. St Kilda defeating North Melbourne by 53. It's been great to have your company across the day on ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital. This is Grandstand AFL.
Hello, Costa here. Gardening is great for the whole family, and I want to tell you something that will get the kids in your life growing. It's my brand new podcast, Gardening Buds. Everything a kid needs to know to make their own garden grow. Whether you've got a big backyard, a balcony, or a little pot on a windowsill. Join Kaylee and I for Gardening Buds. Out now on the ABC Kids Listen and ABC Listen apps.
This is Sir Doug Nicholls Round
Grandstand AFL.
on ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Dropped by Rosie, still it's in the washing machine. Out it comes finally to Hind, drops it inside 50, and Jones takes a mark. Jones comes in and sends it long and hard, and he's kicked the goal.
Nick Martin from 45. The kick is looking great. Back-to-back goals for the Bombers to start the third. And there's some life in this game.
Jones picked it up, gave it to Draper, pulled the kick, the big ruckman, and Waterman stands up and takes a chest mark. 20 metres out, just to the left of the goals. Still with 9 goals 3. He had a shot at goal, a set shot in the first half, kicked it out on the full. This time, straight over the goal umpire's head. Bombers are really in this match now.
On the 45, Hines spots Hobbs all alone at left half forward. He can go, heads towards the top of the goal square. 3-on-3 awaits. Aaliyah sticks a hand out, knocked it straight down. Quick kick through for a major. The Bombers strike front and square. Sam Durham was waiting and capitalised. 45-degree angle to the right, 35 out. Trent Dumont, short run up, but the kick is brilliant. Never in doubt.
The Sir Doug Nicholls Round
on ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
A 14-point lead to Port Adelaide heading into the final quarter. The Bombers are firing in this second half. They didn't kick their first goal until the 11-minute mark of the second term. Trailed by 20 at quarter time, 31 at half time, and then a 4-goal-to-1 third term has that margin stuck at 14 points. Earlier today, St Kilda defeating North Melbourne by 53, Collingwood defeating Carlton by 4. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Stephen Williams, Scott Camporelli and Liz Walsh with you. The rain looks to have subsided for now at the Adelaide Oval, but still going to be wet conditions in this final term. The text line, if you'd like to get in touch, 0437 774 774. Steve, Campo, how did the Bombers get back in it?
Well, it looked to me like a side going in 31 points up, thinking that they pretty much had their opposition covered, and all of a sudden conditions completely changed and the Bombers come out at after half time and put their heads down, won the contest, got the ball forward, and all of a sudden the goals that they were missing in the first half started to go through, and they put some pressure on Port Adelaide and winning field position, scoring goals, and all of a sudden they've got themselves back into the contest. So we don't often say that rain has brought a real improvement to this game, but certainly from an Essendon point of view, they've certainly given themselves a chance now, Campo.
Yeah, well, if you look at probably 3 key stats, 8 inside 50s to 18 for Essendon, 1 goal 4 to 4 goals 3, confirms that. Contested possession 26 to 43 in favour of Essendon. The ground ball battle 17 to 31, so they got on top, Essendon there, and managed to move it forward. But the thing for me is once they went in there, yes, they scored, but they had 10 attacking mid-turnovers for 3 goals. So previously, when it was a little dry earlier in the game, Port Adelaide were able to counter-attack out of there and actually score from it. So they've tidied that part of their game up, and they're back in this game well and truly.
Just watching Perfect Pair at the moment. One of them. Exciting crowd features
said no.
across the country.
He said yes. He's going home with his tail between his legs.
I think she may have changed her mind late at the end there, but great crowd interaction, one of the best around the country at the Adelaide Oval. The crowd slowly making their way back to their seats after hiding under the stands, saving themselves in the rain. Poor Liz Walsh was wearing it all out there down at ground level, keeping an eye out. No injuries so far in the opening 3 quarters. Port Adelaide by 14 points. The live ladder has them 11th heading into their bye. Still a win out of the 8. Meanwhile, for the Bombers, they're just ahead of the bottom 2. Obviously, North Melbourne, the West Coast Eagles with 1 win each. The Bombers with 2, but their percentage is down to 73%. So they definitely would love a win to ignite their season. They're looking pretty good at the moment. They just need to keep up this momentum. Led by Darcy Parish as well. He has 34 touches after having 43 last week.
So he's right on average. He's averaged 34 a game.
In a ripping run of form at the moment. Zach Merritt has 21 as well. The best for the Power, they've actually shared it around this evening. So Rosie and Wines have 18, Butters with 17, Houston with 15. The only multiple goal scorer of the evening is the returning Charlie Dixon, playing his first game of the season. What's in store for us in this final term? The Power by 14 over the Bombers in the middle. Phillips again rucks with Draper starting forward. The Bomber ruckman wins it down. Houston with a fresh area in the middle. Boat collides with Rosie, completely takes him out. Essendon capitalise. Parrish out to Martin in the left forward pocket. He's looking for right. Knocked down well though by Cleary. Got it to Bonner. Wines quick kick up and down. Sits up on the painted defensive 50. Farrell sat underneath it and was crunched by Merritt. Trickles back towards Parrish. He's under a bit of pressure, as is Martin, and was caught high in the tackle. Free kick to Essendon. Left half forward, 60 out. Martin opens the angle, heads towards the top of the goal square. Jones slipped, so Aaliyah can come through and spoil it through for the minus score. 13-point game, the start of the fourth. It's Port Adelaide 9-8-63. The Bombers 6-13-49.
From fullback, it'll be Bonner for Port Adelaide. Coming back into the side this week. He goes out to the eastern side with a long kick. At the front, Kelly just knocked it forward for the Bombers. Picked up by Houston for Port Adelaide. Back down to centre wing with the kick. Bombers will come again through Hind. He put on the Jets, gone away outside of the boot towards Smith. He picked it up, lost it forward as he tried to hand pass. Now it's in a contest near the boundary line and over. Out there on the eastern side of the ground, left half forward for the Bombers, attacking that Riverbank stand end of the ground in the final quarter. Liz Walsh on the boundary.
Happily, the rain's sort of subsiding. It's just light at the moment, but I'm looking at the Essendon bench. They have covered their televisions in plastic to keep everything dry. It is still so wet down here.
Toss back in eastern side. Hayes won it down, then at ground level tried to slap it to the advantage of Boak. Phillips is on his tail. Tried to soccer it down the line. Just carried straight over the boundary line, and then paid deliberate. So free kick to Essendon's centre wing. It wasn't out on the full, it was a deliberate call as he was pushed, trying to push it forward.
That's terrible.
Merritt receives the free kick, heads to left half forward, right's outnumbered by 4. Somehow knocked it down to Devon Smith. Handball back to his skipper. Heppel has walked over the boundary line. The crowd wants to deliver it, and they aren't going to get it this time.
Fair enough too.
What happened to common sense?
Just tells you the umpire really doesn't have much
feel for the game.
There's another cliche that's always brought out, isn't it? Feel for the game. Off the ruck contest. No clean possession. Port Adelaide force it forward. Picked up Finlayson going to ground. Good hand pass to Drew. Released for Houston. He has to go and get it, and he's taken down by Durham. Umpire calls play on. Ball in the centre of play. Houston stayed down from the tackle. Hasn't moved much. Rolling over onto his back now and getting up. Meanwhile, the ball is about 5 or 10 metres away. The umpire calls for it, and still down on his haunches. Here's Dan Houston.
Hayes slaps it down, cut off by Merritt though, who gives it off to Perkins. Quick clearance inside 50 for the Bombers, spoilt down by Jonas. Smith now becomes the tackler on Dumont, wraps him up, he's not going anywhere. Ball up to come, 35 out, straight in front for Essendon.
They just showed the Dan Houston one. He did tackle, went forward and slammed his head on the ground.
Rock contest, Hayes again wins it down straight to Dumont. Kick was smothered. Ricochets out towards left half back for the Power, but cutting it off for the Bombers was Kelly, immediately caught in the tackle. Umpire says he had prior. Couldn't dispose of it cleanly, and Todd Marshall receives the free kick, left half back. Wastes little time heading up towards centre wing, broadcast side, one-on-one, Finlayson, and also Laverty brought it to ground, trickles out to Powell Pepper, keeps it in the field of play, ducking and weaving, trying to get around McGrath, somehow kept it in with a handball across the paint to Wines, around the body inside 50, big collision in the air, back at the flight, Martin was towed up by Dixon, ball spills down, Powell Pepper will wrap up Heppel, and Dixon's now swarmed by Bombers again. Just trying to show some intensity.
Oh, that
had to be a free kick, didn't it?
That's almost reportable. Seriously.
Ball in the ruck contest. Went to Boak, trying to force his way through Rosie. Went to the line with a hand pass. The umpire says that is insufficient intent. Boy, the crowd, they're involved in the game now. Ridley will take the free kick for the Bombers. Drives back down this western side of the ground. Off hands it comes to the front of the pack. Wines picked it up. He kicked it sideways towards the boundary, and that will be a throw-in.
That'll get looked at, Charlie Dixon's. He took his eye off the ball there.
High contact?
Absolutely. Got him with a forearm in the face.
Charlie Dixon getting fired up. So's the crowd.
I think a lot of that's panic, Crossy, to be honest. It's a 13-point game. Port Adelaide lead. Phillips smashes it out of the ruck, trying to get it through centre wing towards their attacking 50. Cut off by Smith and Dumont. Port Adelaide now get a kick forward. It bounces through the square. Durham misses the tackle on Finlayson, who sold some candy around 2. Pierces his kick towards the 50. Outstanding to Wines. He wants to keep going. Pops it over the top to Farrell. Back with the flight. He couldn't claim it. Hits the deck. Knocked out to the back. Power Pepper uses the body on Merritt. Slid in. Gathered the footy. Fell on it. Merritt on top of him. Holding the ball. Free kick to Essendon, defensive 50. Wines could have had the shot on goal, and they've made a meal of it. 5.5 into the fourth term. Port by 13.
Merritt spreads the ball to the eastern side. Got an opportunity through Kelly, who just slows things down, and then straight down the line he goes with a short pass to Heppel. Heppel holds it up just behind centre wing for the Bombers. Out on the eastern side of the ground, now he plays on. Into half forward with the kick. Huge pack. Comes down, Houston on the ground, picks it up, slips a hand pass wide for Boak for Port Adelaide. Clears the area back towards centre wing, Finlayson. Couldn't take the ball. Over the boundary line went the ball, off the hands. Finlayson gave the umpire a piece of his mind, and we'll get a throw in. Out there on the eastern side of the ground, Port 9-8-62, Essendon 6-13-49 on Grandstand AFL.
Just the one behind to the Bombers so far in this final term. Wet weather footy at the Adelaide Oval. The conclusion to round 13. Phillips gets rid of Hayes. Tried to tap it down, but was cut off by Wines. Kick smothered. Finds its way to Durham. He can't get it forward either. Finally, Port Adelaide get it out of there through Boak. Bangs it on the boot up to Finlayson. Knocked away from him by Kelly. Boundary throwing to come right half forward for the Power. They're kicking to the northern end in this final term. Probably a crowd of just over 20,000 in attendance. Earlier today, Collingwood defeating Carlton by 4, their 6th win of the season, just out of the 8 on percentage. Knocked down by Hayes in the ruck contest. Boak was front and square, gathers inside the boundary line. Quick kick inside 50. Dixon's in a one-on-one, trying to get rid of Laverty and can't late. McGrath now trying to pick it up in defensive 50 for the Bombers. Fumbles once, twice, finally gets it on the third bite, but his kick isn't great. It's sat up inside 50 across the goal face for Dumont, who nudged his opponent out of it, took the mark and looks very proppy, maybe a calf injury, but he claimed it well. Just got rid of his opponent in the one-on-one, Trent Dumont.
If his foot's no good, he should...
He's really battling.
Yeah.
But wants to take the set shot. 45-degree angle to the left. Trent Dumont will start outside the paint of 50. Runs in, kick starts left, isn't coming back. Minor score for the Power, back to a 14-point lead for them. Bombers are peppering though. Trent Dumont will certainly need to be checked out very shortly, you'd imagine. He looks very proppy on that right leg. Quick kick out of the defensive goal square from Ridley. Hits up McGrath.
So it's as you were in terms of the bottom line, which is a 14-point lead for Port Adelaide, which it was at three-quarter time. Essendon's worked away to Hind on centre wing, inside half forward. Waterman takes the ball. He breaks away and he's pulled down with a great chase by Aliir. Just as he was about to release the ball with a kick inside 50, Aliir got him.
That was good perseverance. Waterman thought he was clear, but Aliir just kept the chase up.
So he goes back towards centre wing with the kick, and Amon, eventually it came off the knees of Wines as he tried to mark, and Amon picked it up. He was carried across the line in a tackle. Down to Liz Walsh on the boundary.
Yeah, Trent Dumont came straight off the oval then, went to the bench. He's pointing at his right knee and is just in the hands of the trainers. But in the meantime, Lockie Jones has stood up and has started running a few laps. He's the Power's medical sub on the boundary line.
Toss back in front of the interchange gates. 14-point lead to the Power, and they'll get a clearance as well from Rosie. Off hands, it spills down to Dixon. Had a runner and drew. Beautiful handball to him. Flat kick inside 50 is a bit too short for Marshall. Kelly comes across. It bounced off his chest to Burn-Jones. He's wrapped up in the tackle, lost it. The tackle is high.
It's interesting, the umpire a little bit further away, who was in control, didn't pay the free kick, and the other umpire that probably wasn't in the greatest position did pay it.
May have shrugged a shoulder as well, I imagine.
Think so. I think he did, yeah.
Darcy Byrne-Jones, the All-Australian half-back, has a chance to kick a much-needed goal for the Power.
Kicked one a couple of weeks ago down in Hobart.
Had been a few years between drinks before that as well. So Darcy Byrne-Jones, 45-degree angle to the left. Long run up. Wants everything of this in the wet. It's curling, but not enough. Minus score on the right-hand side. No goals in this final term. 15-point lead to Port Adelaide over the Bombers. 9-10-64, plays 6-13-49.
Job in front of the Bombers. It's been a big one all night. They came hard in the third term. They need some goals now in the final term. Off hands from the kick in, it went to Wines. He tumbles a ball forward. Motlop sliding in, takes the mark just outside, attacking 50. Inside 50, look for Finlayson. He looked for the body. It was punched away from him. Ball on the ground, 25 out from goal. Picked up by Merritt for the Bombers. Tried to clear, didn't find anybody. Dangerous position. Parrish picked it up. Good hand pass wide for Martin. Flanking him was Hind. Good running from him yet again. Down the line he went. Perkins took the mark on centre wing. Looks up, goes inside with a long kick. Bombers attacking that Riverbank stand end of the ground. It's come to Draper off hands. Good punch down, found him. Draper sends it towards goal. Byrne-Jones goes back with a flight coming over his shoulder and takes a mark about 10 metres out from the goal square, or the goals at least.
Incredibly brave, racing towards the right-hand goalpost. Could have collided with it. Thankfully got the ball just in time. Clears defensive 50, it's wide, just stays in the field of play. Motlop had to spoil behind McGrath. Boundary throwing to come on the paint, attacking 50 for the Bombers. Trailing by 15 points, they had a 4-goal-to-1 third term. Certainly got a game on our hands, but no one can find a goal.
Porter kicked 1 goal, 6 in the second half, so really struggling to convert.
Toss back in, Hayes was nudged out of it by Draper, who threw boots a ball out of the air, and it sits up perfectly for Waterman. Certainly not intended by the big man, but the Bombers get a chance at goal. 30 out, 45-degree angle to the right.
Byrne-Jones just slipping over. Didn't get to the contest.
That's all it takes in these conditions, just make the most out of a half opportunity and just a rough kick forward. Once again, the forward in the right position.
So Alec Waterman, I should say. Starts inside the paint of 50 on the left. It's looking good. Coming back and snuck through for a major.
Just missed.
Oh, jeez. Minor score. That looked good. Oh, I'm riding the Bombers at the moment, Campo. I'm sorry.
You are.
14 points. The deficit to the visitors. Port 9-10-64. The Bombers 6-14-50 now as Byrne-Jones plays on quickly down the western side. Clears the pack. Pepper can gather and give it to Motlop. Outside of the boot, he heads up to left half forward looking for Farrell.
Heppel came late, just knocked it away. Ball on the ground. Ducking his head but getting it high. And it'll be a free kick for Butters for Port Adelaide. He was heading towards the boundary line, ducked his head, tucked himself up, got one high. Inboard he goes. Aim on with the mark. He's at left half forward. Inside 50 he goes. Bombers knocked the ball to the front. Picked up by Motlop, flicked it out, looking for Boak, or he tapped it on to Wines. Around the corner. Not far enough. Couldn't pull it back. Minor score for Port Adelaide. And that just takes it back to a 15-point advantage for the home side. They led by as much as 38 points at the 18-minute mark of the second term.
Dyson Heppel has it in the defensive goal square. Heads long up towards right half back. Early rise from Phillips went straight through his hands. Aaliyah tries to clear it back inside 50. It sits up nicely for Drew. Didn't have a lot of carry off the outside of the boot. But the midfield gun has it just inside the paint of 50. Slide angle to the left.
He's 3 kicks away. He can't kick that far.
He's going back on the set shot. Meanwhile, the Bombers have flooded defensive 50. He'll use every bit of his 30 seconds, Willem Drew, and then pierce it short to Pal Pepper, all alone. No one manning him. Clean run, takes it 40 out from goal. 45-degree angle to the left.
Really smart play by Drew. He knows his capabilities. He was too far out and just used all his time up. Pal Pepper was able to get himself free, and now there's a realistic opportunity.
Zach Merritt was the midfielder who was just standing there.
Goalless last week. Pal Pepper has a chance for 2. And what a big one it would be. Kicks from the paint of 50 and goes bang!
Hit the post.
Oh, minus score to Port Adelaide again. It's just hit the left-hand goalpost. Crowd behind at the northern end rode it all the way.
It did look a good kick, didn't it?
16-point lead to Port Adelaide. Liz Walsh downstairs on the boundary.
Just a quick update on Trent Dumont. He had a corky to the calf. He's okay. He's back on the field now.
Bombers bring it in. Ball slides off the pack to the back. And Hobbs had an opportunity, just couldn't keep it inside the field of play. So it's still ahead of centre wing for Port Adelaide. Under a lot of pressure, the Power. In comes the ball from the boundary umpire. Phillips gets rid of his man. His kick is smothered by, well, I give Butters the credit for that. It went to Merritt. Merritt drove it forward. Not quite to half forward. Ball in the centre square now. It's just toe poked wide for Port Adelaide. Butters picked up. Gave it to Boak. Shrugged off a tackle back to Butters. Further back he went to Bonner. Bonner around the corner. Just sends it down the line. Motlop went up. Couldn't take it. Drew got it. Hand pass out to Boak. He lost it in the tackle. Makes a tackle himself. Forces the ball up. It's a grind. It's close. It's entertaining in that respect. And it's 15 and a half minutes down in the final term with a 16-point lead, Port Adelaide.
Off the ball up, McGrath tumbles it away through centre wing on the broadcast side. Outnumbered is right, so Powell Pepper can capitalise. Got it out towards Houston. Check side. It's knocked over the boundary line. For a boundary throw in just forward of the interchange gates. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Stephen Williams, Scott Camporelli with you.
You'd think a Port Adelaide goal would just about seal it, but if the Bombers can sneak another one, they're still in with a chance.
Can't buy a goal in this final term. Phillips tries to take it out of the ruck contest, couldn't, but Shield came through, had one arm wrapped up and somehow got it away. Burne-Jones couldn't pick it up, Hobbs could, diving down low. Handball knocked away, Houston can pick it up, just forward of left half back. His handball isn't a clean one. Sliding in right is collected, a kick to the head. He's okay. Meanwhile, Amon goes back to Cleary and doesn't know what to do. Proppy finally kicks up down the line. Phillips spoils it all the way to the boundary line. A couple of Port players think it may have been deliberate, but we'll get a boundary throw in, true centre wing, right in front of us, broadcast side. 16-point lead to the Power, very messy final term. But who can stand up? Both sides obviously think that their season is alive. But a loss for the Bombers might just end it. Spilled through the ruck contest at the back. Shield gets a quick clearing kick up to half forward. Wanganeen was brought down in the contest with Bonner. Spills it to Boak. He had a fumble inside the square, but gets again. Throws it on the boot up towards left half forward. It'll bounce wide of Dixon. He can't get there in time.
He's going to play it.
And deliberate. The kick was rushed. Just trying to get some territory for the Power by Boak. And again, a free kick has been paid on a wing from a kick that was arguably trying to get to a teammate.
Laverty takes it, sends it to half forward. Jones goes up for Essendon. It comes off hands to Robbie Gray, who just spirals the ball down the line. Off hands, Dixon comes through, slides in. Shield stands up, slides now. Got it to Laverty, cleared it back towards centre wing. Houston came late for Port Adelaide, almost took it. Now he receives a hand pass from Wines. Looks further afield, got it to Butters. Butters thought about going down the line, went inside, 45-degree angle. Ridley almost got confused as to whether he should take it or Durham for the Bombers. In the end, Ridley with the mark. Off to Kelly, took the mark. Flanking him was Heppel.
18-minute mark of the fourth, 16-point lead to the Power, but the Bombers are going through the eastern side. Phillips takes the mark up against Amon, a bit of a height mismatch there. Called to play on at left half back. He'll head wide towards the boundary line, spots his skipper in Heppel. Over the top, uses Perkins in the centre wing, gives it off towards Martin, now long up towards left half forward, sits up on the paint for right. Got rid of Cleary, bounced off his chest, but he reeled it in with one arm. Loads up now, opens the angle, heads towards the top of the goal square, sets himself, can't be claimed by Perkins at the back. Now spills towards Dixon, gives it off to Amon, left back pocket. Panic kick out of defensive 50 will work for Marshall, who was outnumbered in a 2-on-1. Takes it on the chest. Broadcast side will slow things down. Still plenty of time in this quarter. 16-point lead to the Power. Marshall on the 45 hits Amon close to the boundary line.
Didn't have many choices there, Marshall. He only had one player forward of the ball once he took the mark. And as you called, Aaron, Charlie Dixon was up in the defensive 50. So they go down the line again this time. And off hands it comes to Ridley, cleared. Dixon took the mark, inboard with a kick, dangerous, and picked up by Butters, bottom of the pack. Thought he heard something. There was nobody there in Port colours, but the ball slides through a couple of Essendon players to Drew. Top of the 50, he had Boak. He missed him with the kick. Heppel picked it up. Hand pass to Shield, who gave it back to Heppel. Running wide. Heppel goes out towards centre wing, poor kick.
He's had a
Aaliyah with the interception.
He's not the player you really want to give the ball to penetrate off the half-back line. He just doesn't have any penetration in his kick any longer.
Well, Devon Smith did the right thing. He led up at him and he then just bombed it long.
Aaliyah called to play on. He'll head up to right half forward to a pack. Dumont couldn't claim it. Had a couple up against him, so it'll be knocked over the boundary line. Port Adelaide trying to go inside 50 once again at the northern end. As Stephen Williams said, a goal would just about do it after the Bombers had a late scare. Port Adelaide thought they were comfortably home at half-time, up by 31. It's now 16. Willem Drew taken down in the tackle off the ruck contest. Could have been in the back against Caldwell. The umpire gives the visitors the benefit of the doubt. Ball up just outside, attacking 50 for the Power. Quick reset. Dixon in the ruck wins it against Draper. Coming through, Parrish lost it. Martin's trying to gather as well. Plenty of heads over the footy, but no one can wrench it out. We'll have to try again with the ball up closer towards the centre of attacking 50.
Up it goes. Dixon involved. Came off hands. Hind cleared the area. In the middle of the ground, right in the middle. It was picked up by Jonas. Hand pass off to Amon for Port Adelaide. Down to half forward with a kick. Marshall slipped over. Umpires called it a draw. And the ball slid out of play. We'll get a throw in just on attacking 50.
Lucky they didn't get deliberate for that one. There's no different than Boakes.
It's a toss back in on the paint of 50. Dixon again in the ruck contest against Draper. The Power forward taps it down looking for Boat. And his toes, he can't pick it up. Finally on the third bite he gets a handball out to Houston. Sold him into trouble, but Wanganeen couldn't capitalise. Caught him high. Free kick. Houston just behind left half forward on the boundary line. Plays on, heads to the left forward pocket. Pletty sitting underneath it. Finlayson tries to get the sit. Dixon came across as well. Spilled down to Wines, flicked a handball out to Gray. He's taken away before he could pick up the footy. He's desperate for a free. Won't be paid it against Shield. Boundary throw in to come. 30 out, left forward pocket for Port Adelaide. 22 minutes played. Hasn't been a goal in this final term. The Power by 16.
In comes the ball. And neither ruckman got an effective tap. Came to the front and ball caught in there. No. Yes. Hobbs, just as he picked it up, or wanted to get away with it, the umpire called for it. So ball up. Draper just knocks it forward for the Bombers towards the boundary. Amon picks it up just inside the boundary. And in a tackle, he was carried over the line to the umpire. Hind wanted a free kick, but he was clever in what he did, Amon, and so we'll get a throw in. It's still in that same area. This is killing time for the Bombers. 23 minutes down in the final quarter, and it's a 16-point game in favour of Port.
Toss back in. Draper tried to slap it out of defensive 50. Went as far as Amon. Got boot to ball along the deck. It's cut off by Hobbs. Diving handball is not clean. Straight to the chest of Butters. Inside 50. Farrell in a 2-on-1. He's outnumbered. And Reid does well for the Bombers. Gives it to Merritt. Spins and just panic kicks up towards the square. Port Adelaide sitting back but can't claim it. Head over the footy. Shields trying to wrench it out. Can't do so cleanly. Wines missed his boot in the tackle from Merritt. Shield did the same. Spills out to Parrish. Umpires put the whistle away. Hind heads up the western wing. Kick in space is too wide for Waterman. If it's going to be consistent, that should be deliberate. It's not going to be. Boundary throw in through centre wing in front of where Liz Walsh is seated.
Yeah, Sam Powell-Pepper came from the ground before. He had a little bit of work done on his groin. Apparently it's a little bit sore, but he's all good and he's just about to come back on now.
Ball, and he's going to be held up as it's thrown back into play. Neither ruckman got a touch. It's on the logo at centre wing. Burton took a bump, lost it. Boak picked it up. Hand passed it out. Into space, Rosie. He flicked it up. It was taken by Burton off the non-preferred left foot to the top of the 50. Dixon picked it up. Good hand pass, got it to Drew. Slick one to Gray. And then it went to Marshall. Lazy old kick wide. He went to give it away to Finlayson. It was from Motlop. And then Finlayson inside forward 50. Bloke almost got there for a mark. It's out into a bit of space. Burne-Jones, the backman, takes it. He looks around. He's taken down in a tackle. He thought about it too long. It'll be, hang on. It should have been, I thought, play on advantage to Hine, but instead it'll go back for the free kick to Ridley.
He should have snapped it the first time.
He should have, yeah.
Thoughts of a backman.
Yeah. Play your role.
Bombers clear defensive 50. Durham did well in the air to beat Butters, knock it to ground and gather off the bounce. Kick wasn't good though. Soldholg's into trouble and he's crunched by Dixon. Umpire will pay the free. They've got to go now. 90 seconds left in the final term. We haven't seen a goal and the Bombers are 16 points down. Cross half back. Martin uses Reed. Up the western wing, he heads towards attacking 50. Wright's outnumbered, so he knocks it down, trying to get it towards Caldwell. Had to become the tackler on Drew, and Amon can mop it up for the power. Gives it to Burne-Jones, heads back down the wing. Back with the flight. Boak lost it in the air, trying to keep it in play. He slaps it up forward, but it will carry over the boundary line. It'll be tossed back into play, left half forward for the power.
It's interesting, Charlie Dixon gives away a free kick that one early. He just about takes his head off and play on.
So the weather's dried out. The Bombers have gone back to their ways of the first half in some ways, just overusing the ball a little bit. Power have shut things down in the final term. Off the ruck contest, it went to Boak, hand pass to Rosie into the forward pocket. Dixon involved. It comes off hands. Kelly, he wants to move it. He moves it backwards to Hine for the Bombers. Hine goes centrally, looking for Merritt. Comes off his feet. It falls. And they'll take a mark outside defensive 50 through Hobbs. Hobbs plays on immediately. Nobody comes at him for the Bombers, so he's forced to take a bounce. Yes, that's right. Despite the wet, he takes a bounce. Down to half forward, it comes off hands. Rosie picks it up. Cleary takes it. And his steadying little kick found Wines, but he dropped it. And as a result, there's another chance for the Bombers. Oh, and they just tumble over the ball. Amon's gone down with a problem as well. Perhaps a leg problem out of that. Boak off his left foot, down the line, bounces over the line, and Port Adelaide effectively hangs on. A big third quarter from the Bombers, but Port Adelaide hang on. 9-12-66. Essendon 6-14-50. A 16-point win for Port Adelaide, but they almost blew it. They claim an important win. They take their season's record to 5 wins and 6 losses.
Win for the Power on the stroke of the bye for them. They're a game outside the 8. And gee, they were pressured late. They led by 20 points at quarter time, 31 at the half before the Bombers had a 4-goal-to-1 third term. Brought it down to a 14-point margin. Neither side could kick a goal in the final term. And the Power get over the line by 16 points. Dixon with 2, singles to Dumont, Rosie, Butters, Finlayson, Motlop, Marshall and Powell-Pepper. For the Bombers, all individual goal scorers. McGrath, Durham, Jones, Phillips, Martin and Waterman. Their season hangs by a thread at 2-9. Port Adelaide's well and truly alive at 5-6. They get over the line by 16 points. With you for the next 50 minutes on Grandstand AFL. Plenty to recap throughout the day. St Kilda winners by 53 points over North Melbourne. Collingwood in a thriller over Carlton by 4 points at the MCG. Feel free to get in touch with us. The text line 0437 774 774. Pies fans, I want to know what you're feeling after that thrilling win. Jack Silvani with the late miss. Blues fans, are you frustrated? Do you feel overrated? Do you feel like the season is still well and truly bound for finals, let us know. 0437 774 774. Meanwhile, Port Adelaide fans, I think they'll just be happy they got it done in the wet because it looked dangerous late. And the Bombers, meanwhile, had a dismal opening half. Showed a little bit of signs in the third, but you can't afford to let the home side at the Adelaide Oval get an early lead. Stephen Williams, Scott Camporelli. Did we learn anything from the Bombers tonight, considering they had one good quarter?
Well, I think we learned that when they don't mess around with the ball and get it into their forward line quickly, they're a chance to look dangerous. But and I think the weather made it hard for Port to transition out of the back half, and whether that was because Essendon tightened up or whether it was because of the weather conditions, because that was probably the difference in the first half, the ease in which Port were able to exit the Bomber forward 50 and score. So, a much better effort by the Bombers in the third quarter. What did you say, Crossy? How many quarters have they won for the season? I think maybe 10.
10 coming in.
So they've only won one again tonight. So, Port would just be happy to get that one over the line and get to the break 5 and 6 and have a look at what presents itself after.
The other main issue for the Bombers is they haven't actually led for more than 5 quarters this year total. So they've trailed essentially the entire night here at the Adelaide Oval. So when you let a team get a start before the rain kicks in, it's always an uphill battle.
Yeah, no, I agree with Steve's sentiments. I mean, at the end of the day, 1 goal 8 to 4 goals 5, but the game was pretty much over. It was always going to be tough to obviously keep going and try and score at the level that they needed to. But, in that last quarter, I was impressed with Port. They rolled up their sleeves in that last quarter. Contested possession, +51-32. Ground ball, 39-22. So there's no doubt Ken would have challenged them in terms of what that number looked like in that third quarter when they got back on top, and they responded. So some real positives from a Port Adelaide perspective. If we had said, 6 weeks ago they'd be in that position going into the bye, I reckon they would have taken it.
Leading possession getters for the contest, Darcy Parish had 39, Zach Merritt with 27, Nick Hine with 26, Nick Martin with 25. For the Power, Wines had 29, Amon with 25, Butters, Rosie with 24 apiece. The only multiple goal scorer was Charlie Dixon, his first game of the season, similar to Harrison Jones at the other end, both returning from ankle injuries. Jones showed a fair bit for the Bombers. Dixon actually went up the ground, didn't just plunk himself in the goal square, so both looked like they could be set for the back half of the year.
Yeah, I thought Charlie Dixon competed pretty well. He was on Le Verde, and certainly it was a lot easier to monitor Dixon in the second half with that rain, but I thought he got himself to the contest for most of the night and competed well and got through the game without getting injured. So I think that would be the big plus that Port would have been hoping for, that he could get a game under his belt. Now he gets the weekend off next week, and he can get himself up for the Thursday night blockbuster against the Tigers at the MCG, Aaron.
Just looking at the Sandful scores for the week to see how Mitch Georgiadis went for Port Adelaide. He had 2 and 20 touches, so it's going to be hard to squeeze your way back into this forward line with Finlayson, Dixon and Marshall there. Marshall looked really good tonight. Finlayson was a bit quieter, had the 1 goal, 12 touches as well. I actually thought during the week they may even play him as the ruck, and Sam Hayes was going to miss out in the wet, but can you see a way that Mitch Georgiadis makes his way back in after tonight?
Well, I can, but I can't imagine they're going to play 4 of them at the one time. I'm not sure you could get away with that. They'll play the Tigers after the bye under the lights at the MCG. So, yeah, I can't imagine that they'll go with four big forwards.
Meanwhile, for the Bombers, they've got the bye as well. Doesn't really get easier for them either with the month of footy ahead. They'll have Carlton off the back of that on Friday night. St Kilda, West Coast then is a gettable game, and Sydney after that. So 3 of their next 4 is top 8 sides. As I said, their season hanging by a thread at 2 and 9. They just haven't shown consistent signs. It's a big drop-off in form from last year as well. At what point do we need to write them off and they need to focus on next year?
I think now you could probably write them off.
Yeah,
2 and 9.
2 and 9. They obviously get a couple of the young fellas back. I mean, they'll be, as much as they'd say we'll fight the season out, they can look at, potentially what that pre-season looks like. They can fine-tune what they want to get out of the back half of the year. They're definitely not going to play finals, and they don't deserve to play finals. So they can get a jump start on, which is sad to say this early in the season. But, those bottom 4 teams definitely haven't got a lot to play for. And at the end of the day, they can, play some younger guys. They can try some things different that they might want to have looked at at the start of pre-season, they might pull the trigger on some of those things as well.
Any of their senior players you think need a spell?
I know he's the captain, but I just thought Heppel looked, he made some average decisions tonight with the ball across there. But, they need some leadership, though. That's been the challenge for them. Their leaders haven't probably stood up for them all year. So you can't give them an out and then go, here, have a rest. And there's always fraught with danger with that as well. Some of their leaders aren't aren't old guys anyway. So they need to keep playing. They need to get some continuity. They want to keep working on their game plan for the future.
Yeah, they need Stringer back as well. He gives them that X factor, a bit of a bigger body through the midfield when he plays in that role, and he's certainly been missed by the Bombers.
So the conclusion to round 11 sees Port Adelaide defeat Essendon by 16 points, 9-12-66 to 6-14-50. Let's head down into the rooms for the Port Adelaide song. You can hear the joy in that song. Their season well and truly alive after a 0-5 start. Port Adelaide now 5-6 heading into the bye after a 16-point win over the Bombers. On the text line, 0437 774 774. Cheryl says, very happy to get a win over the Blues in a thriller. Go Pies. It's Collingwood's 6th of the year. What a great upset in front of 80,000 people at the MCG. Looks like crowds are starting to come back to the game. Jack Savani had a late shot on goal to give the Blues the win and missed, so a 4-point victory for the Pies, and they're now just out of the 8 on percentage. Another texter says Jacob Wiedering is the most important player for the Blues, and the context to that is that he was subbed out of the game early with a shoulder injury. I haven't seen the vision of the collision with Jordan De Goey, but it doesn't sound good, and they're already missing a few of their back stocks at the moment. Oscar McDonald's out for the year, Mitch McGovern's long-term as well, so it's an uphill battle for the Blues to stay in the 8. Bill from Barmera also says, hi team, great call. Has the push in the back rule gone? Umps are very inconsistent with the out-of-bounds rulings. No idea what's going on. I tend to agree with Bill. I think it was a couple of years ago they changed the ruling that you could actually have hands in the back as long as you were standing in your spot and it wasn't to actually kind of gain any sort of advantage. But it's become so grey now because players are getting shoved out of contests and it's not being paid.
Well, it's always been like that, hasn't it, really, over the journey of football? There's always been, sometimes you think, well, that was a push and you get away with it, and other times you don't get away with it, just the nature of the game.
Just that other text there, Aaron, this is fill in the blanks. It just came in and says, I prefer to listen to the radio because when I hear the crowd and the commentators, are... Blank. Come on, the commentators are...
up and about. Surely, we rise with the crowd.
Excellent.
Here at the Adelaide
the commentators are excellent. There you go.
Give us a self-pat on the back there.
Aaron calling things that aren't happening.
I can't read out a text that isn't finished. Not going to lie, but anyway. 0437 774 774 if you'd like to get in touch. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Scott Camporelli, Stephen Williams with you. Plenty of laughs to come for the next 40 minutes as we wrap up all things round 11. I know we didn't get to see a lot of the Collingwood-Carlton game, and we'll revisit the final few moments shortly, but... Campo, what have you made so far of the Blues this season, considering they've had a couple of losses like this and games where they nearly lost after big leads? It doesn't feel like they're just yet ready for a grand final, but they certainly can play finals.
Yeah, well, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. I know you do at times, Aaron. The history would say that, but... Look, from a footy club point of view, Vossi's come in and you can see he's made instant impact in terms of the connection of the group, his game plan that he's brought to the group. They've bought into it. He's getting the best out of the group. There's some guys that have been there for the last couple of years, like Kennedy's the one that comes to mind. He's having a great season under Vossi. So obviously getting Charlie Curnow back, that's important with that duo. I know Harry Mackay's not in there, but that's as potent two or dual forward line as there is in the competition. So they're putting some pieces, but I agree with that message that came through on the text line. I think Wiedering is just about the most important because that's probably the area of concern for mine if they're going to go into a final series. So whether that backline's match hardened and can withstand finals type top four, forward line group that's going to be under constant pressure, and the ball's going to come in, with speed. If you look at Brisbane, can they handle a Brisbane? Can they handle a Melbourne, in terms of that point of view? But I've been super impressed with how they've gone about it. Potentially today they might have got rolled, by a bigger margin previously, so they hung in there, so they're digging in. So I think they're doing a lot right.
Just, can they pick up, what's his name, Jones? Can they pick him up in the mid-season? Can they pick up Liam Jones now in the mid-season draft?
If he's not vaccinated, he can't play in the AFL, can he?
Is that still the case?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's interesting. Yeah, I think it's only the sample that have released it. If you're not back into it. So,
well, if the AFL does that before the mid-season draft, you reckon that?
I would have thought they'd be making a phone call. Yes. So, I mean that's unfortunate. That they need someone like him, don't they, in terms of, for the whole year, not just now, because, perhaps Wiedering's going to miss some weeks, but, you need two of those sort of monsters just in case, don't you? And he's an intercept marker as well, don't forget. So that's my only chink in their armour at the moment. I think their midfield's building quite well. They're not so reliant on Cripps and Walsh, and obviously bringing in Hewitt and Shearer has been two really good recruits, and that makes a massive difference.
So Collingwood defeating Carlton earlier today by 4 points. St Kilda defeating North Melbourne by 53. Here at the Adelaide Oval, Port Adelaide closing the round with a 16-point win over the Bombers. They were up by as much as 38 points late stages of the second. The Bombers had a 4-goal to 1/3 term and a messy final quarter that didn't see a major. Sees Port Adelaide get over the line with their 5th win of the season. Let's check in with the camp and see how they're feeling. Liz Walsh is downstairs with Connor Rosie.
Thanks very much, Aaron. Yeah, I'm down here with Connor. Connor, congratulations on the win. Your 5th for the season, so your fight to get back into that 8 is well and truly alive.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like we've got a few things working. Finally, we obviously didn't start the way we would have liked. That's pretty obvious, but it's nice that we've got back on track and we've put ourselves in a position to still fight for finals.
Looking at that game today, it's almost, when you think about a saying, for example, it's like make hay while the sun shines. So when the sun shone, you made the most of it. But that first half won you the match, didn't it?
Yeah, 100%. We got our game going early, and I think that showed on the scoreboard. They probably missed a few that they could have kicked, so it probably could have been a little bit closer. But we played some of our best footy in the first half. Unfortunately, second half we lost contested possession a little bit coming out after three-quarter time, and we had to, I guess fight right to the line in that last quarter, and that's shown with no goals being kicked.
Did the rain make it difficult, and what was Ken Hinckley's message at three-quarter time?
Yeah, like you said, it was almost 2 different games coming out after half-time. It was pretty slippery, so it was more get it on the boot and try and get it forward. They probably did that a little bit better than us, getting hands on it and being a little bit cleaner inside early in that third quarter. But in the last quarter, I think we were able to get our contested possession numbers up a little bit more and really fight to the end.
Let's head up to our experts in the box in Scott Camporelli and Stephen Williams.
Connor, Steve Williams here. Congratulations, mate. A good win in the end. As you mentioned, what did Ken say at three-quarter time? Because the Bombers certainly were all over you in that third quarter with the contested footy, but then you were able to turn that around, plus 19 in the last quarter. So he must have been pretty happy with that at the end of the game.
Yeah, well, that was the main thing. They were probably beating us on that second ball, probably not the first one. Those handballs and surge balls that get kicked out, and they were beating us to the next contest in that third quarter, and we were able to tighten that up in the last, which showed with the numbers. So it's something that we've been working on, and unfortunately we probably haven't put 4 quarters together for a couple of weeks now. So it'll be something that we'll be focusing on for the next couple of weeks for sure.
And what was it like to have Charlie back out there? You know, it's a tough game to come back in, particularly with that second half, but I thought the fact that he competed pretty well all game, and he actually finished up the game high goal scorer with 2.
Yeah, he was outstanding, and it's obviously really nice to have him back amongst the group. He's a massive presence out there, and we love having him out there. He's a big brother figure, and I think when he's out there, we're a much better team. And just his contest in the second half, even though he probably didn't get 2 hands to too many, makes a massive difference if he can just bring that ball to ground.
Connor Campo up here, congratulations on the win. I was interested in the first half. I mean, you were able to, as you said, get your game going. You're one of the better teams in the competition when you can do that, when you rebound out of your back half. Did you feel like Essendon just didn't have any pressure on the ball earlier in the game?
Yeah, a little bit. I think our skills were pretty good, so we're able to change angles a little bit and get him out on the weak side, which is probably one of our strengths. We've got some good running mids that are able to use their legs and, I guess change angles and beat them out the other side. But when that game changes, then it gets a little bit more wet. It becomes a bit more of a straight line game, and they were a little bit better than us in the third quarter. But hopefully we can touch that up, and we should be good for it in a couple of weeks.
And really proud of you. I love the fact that Ken pulled the trigger on you against that Carlton game, and you haven't really looked back in terms of your midfield work. You've obviously been, had some injuries and those sort of things that's probably halted a little bit of your development and time through there, but you've really grabbed that opportunity with both hands now.
Yeah, I think I did a fair bit of work during the pre-season to put myself in the right spot to, have a good crack and spend a bit more time in the midfield. And like you said, I had COVID during the first week of the season, which probably pushed me back a couple of steps and then rolled the ankle. So it was a little bit frustrating the first few weeks. But now that I've been given the opportunity to go in there a little bit more, and Ken's really backed me and Zach to go in there and use our strengths and provide something a little bit different. So hopefully we can keep providing what he wants, and we should stay in there.
Connor Rosie's our guest on Grandstand AFL after Port Adelaide defeated Essendon by 16 points at the Adelaide Oval. Connor, Aaron Bryans here. I just wanted to know the directive from Ken Hinkley heading into this season and across the last couple of rounds as well. At times you move the ball with a ton of dare and you really take the game on through the corridor. Other times you're a bit more hesitant and kicking sideways across half-back. What's the trigger to decide to play the uncontested game and then eventually take the game on?
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to who we're playing against. Some teams defend it really well, and some teams give you a little bit of an opportunity through the corridor. But I guess when we're playing off half back and kicking it back and forth, the crowd can get a little bit angsty, I guess. But Kenny's told us to just not worry about that and just keep playing our football. We're a better team when we change angles and we can use our legs rather than just kicking it long down the line every time. So it's a little bit dependent on who we're playing, I guess, each week.
It's easier to look back now at 5 and 6 and say that believing in Ken Hinkley's message at 0 and 5 was going to be an easy task. But how was it amongst the playing group when the season was really on the line and everyone was kind of turning off you to trust in the system that you'd practiced throughout the pre-season?
Yeah, I guess it was a little bit of a strange one because we actually felt like we were playing some decent footy here and there. We just probably weren't putting it together as a whole game, and we were missing a bit of personnel, which obviously has a small effect, but I think that mindset of just staying positive, the vibe around the group was actually pretty good considering we were 0 and 5, and I think that's helped us massively coming into this next 6 games because we've turned things around. And I think, I guess if we were in a bit of a negative mindset and woe is me, then things could have gotten worse and the season could have been over before we knew it. So staying in a positive mindset has made a massive difference for us in the last couple of weeks.
Connor Neil Cross here. Just what's the next 2 weeks look like? Do you manage to get some time off and some of the guys can go to their home states or something like that? Is that possible this year?
Yeah, we have the next 4 days off from the club, so most of the boys will be heading back to Melbourne or Western Australia or wherever they're from. A few boys have organised a few trips down south in South Australia, so it'll be nice to get away from the football club for a little bit and spend a bit of time together. And I guess we're all looking forward to this week off because it's been a long season already, and it's nice to freshen up the body.
I thought you'd want to head somewhere warm rather than going further south. But anyway, are you going away? You going up north somewhere?
No, I'll be heading down south a little bit, checking out South Australia, best state in the world. So I'll be staying around here.
It's I think it's your 4th year in the competition. So do you feel now you're ready for a whole season, but you do need the break at this time?
Yeah, a little bit, I guess. Stepping into that midfield, it's a completely different role. You probably pull up a little bit more sore than I would have when I was playing half forward, a little bit more body contact and that sort of thing. But like I said, I did a fair bit of work throughout pre-season, so I think I put myself in a good position to really attack the second half of this season, and my body's feeling pretty good, so that's a positive.
And Connor, just before we let you go, obviously we just touched on there the fact that the bye is the chance for a break, but what do you actually want to see or at least grow into in the second half of the season to make sure that you're a better team and really race towards finals footy?
The main thing for us is our contested footy. When we win contested footy, we win pretty much every game. So I guess with me and Zach going in there, we're a little bit smaller and provide something a little bit different on the outside. We can use our legs a bit more, but contested football going, and And yeah, that's probably the main thing that we'll be focusing on for the rest of the season.
Connor, thanks for your time. Congratulations on the win.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Connor Rosie downstairs with Liz Welsh. Port Adelaide winners by 16 points at the Adelaide Oval, 9-12-66 to 6-14-50. With you for another 30 minutes at the Adelaide Oval, so feel free to get in touch. 0437 774 774. Matt in Medora Bay says, do we have a crowd figure yet for the Power and the Bombers? We do. 25,877. So
not a bad crowd.
Yeah, not bad considering the weather.
And the fact it's 4:10 on a Sunday afternoon. It's not the ideal time slot, so well done.
It's off
to those
Broadway,
supporters.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is. My word, it is.
Especially when over in Melbourne at the same time you've got 80,000 watching Collingwood and Carlton. It was always going to be difficult. The Sandville W was on today as well. Congratulations to the Roosters for their win in that over at Norwood Oval. But yeah, decent crowd considering the weather conditions. They were certainly vocal towards the end.
They
They're
were.
getting very panicked and frustrated. It was very messy football in that final term. Only behind scored. We didn't see a major. Port Adelaide got it as high as 38 points in the second term. It was actually an equal low halftime score for the season for the Bombers. They were 2-9-21 at the major break, down by 31. Fought back in that third term, came out firing in the wet, 4-1. 14-point deficit at three-quarter time. The Power hanging on to win by 16 earlier today. St Kilda defeating North Melbourne by 53 points. Collingwood defeating Carlton by 4 points. Let you have a listen to the final few stages, and then you can decide if that or the Swans and Richmond was the game of the round. Here's the final few moments.
5-point lead Collingwood's way. Cameron went early against De Koning. De Koning knocks it Carlton's way. Pendlebury in there. De Koning tries to dive on the footy. Cripps to Doherty. Hand pass to Walsh. Can he get forward? Runs to 50. Long to the goal mouth. It's offline. Darcy Moore down low and it goes out of play. Up against the right behind post. A boundary throw in. Carlton are deep in attack. They're still alive.
Collingwood by 5 points. 31 gone final term. Forward 50 stoppage for the Blues. Back in it comes. Cameron held out of it. Umpire said play on. De Koning tries to tunnel it away. Silvani bursts through. Hand pass comes wide to Fisher. Turns one way off to Nunes. Off a step. Across the goal mouth now. Deep to the pocket. Curnow goes up. Moore with him. Ginnivan finds the boundary line. The umpire's going to say let's throw it back in. Collingwood hang on by 5 points. 31.5 played.
Collingwood forwards need to reset here. Even if it comes out, it's going to go straight back in. Need a contest down the line.
What set play the Blues got late. Thrown in to Koning and Cameron. De Koning knocks it down. Cripps tried to run in. Maynard's kick is smothered. It comes out to Silvani. He snaps and he misses to the right. He didn't miss by much. 4-point Collingwood lead.
Just can't give up a mark here. 20 seconds to go.
Pendlebury has the kick out. Opts to go by hand to Howe. It was dicey. Howe's kick goes straight up in the air. It'll land at the 50. Adams underneath it. Cripps coming the other way as well. Fisher's hand pass out to only as far as Ginnivan. He's ducking the tackle. The umpire says let's ball it up. 40 out from the Carlton goal. Magpies by 4 points.
Scotty Pendlebury, what are you doing?
Thrown up. Cripps does the ruck work. Cameron knocks it down. Walsh can't get clear. Hand pass way. Noble gathers. The siren sounds and Collingwood hang on. What a thrilling finish at the MCG in front of 80,000. Craig McRae gets the bragging rights as Carlton suffer their third loss of the season. The Magpies by 4 points.
What a great round of footy it's been. 2 single-digit margins, 4 decided by 16 or less, including our game, Crossy. 16 points, Port Adelaide over the line by the Bombers. Collingwood defeating Carlton by 4. The round started with the Swans beating Richmond by 6. So take your pick. There was plenty of interesting results, not to mention Fremantle handing Nam a 38-point win as well.
That one down the bottom there that you've got there.
The one that I'm ignoring, the Western Bulldogs win over the West Coast Eagles. We'll just completely forget that. The Eagles are a write-off this season. But yeah, certainly some great footy. And
I thought the Suns last night were fantastic because normally the Darwin game's a bit of a dour 60 to 70, but 121 points. I thought they looked really good. Stewie Dew's got those boys firing pretty well.
Decent run to come as well. I think the Roos and the Crows in the next few. So it's the Suns are shaping up like they could play finals.
It is interesting. This time of year is, full season on for taking aim at coaches. And Stewie Jew has been in the gun for, the past 3 years, I think. But this year he's avoided that well and truly. And Suns, as we say, they're well in the contest. David Noble, on the other hand, and a few other coaches, maybe even Ben Rutten, under a little bit of fire.
A couple of blockbusters next week. So the Western Bulldogs against Geelong on Friday night. The Crows and the Eagles will be pretty close here at the Oval. Melbourne and the Swans is going to be a good one Saturday night. On Sunday, though, on the text line, Jason in Brisbane says Fremantle and Brisbane should be one of the games of the season. That'll be at Perth Stadium to conclude round 12. He says maybe Joe Danaher will be back playing. Do you think the Lions have one of the best forward setups with Danaher, Hipwood and McStay? I think when they're all out there together alongside the Mosquito fleet, they're going to be very tough to beat, Campo.
Yeah, no, they are. There's no doubt about it. They're probably Melbourne's,
I think
have
so.
to pick they'd be the two informed teams they're potentially going to be at the moment. The other ones are sort of, up and down, a little bit scratchy, but yeah, definitely with Cameron and McCarthy and Zach Bailey through that
they're
small
good, aren't
forward.
they? They're as
really
good as any of
talented
those little
line,
boys, yeah.
Difficult round because of the results to see where everyone sits now that Melbourne has finally lost. But who do you have as your top two, Steve?
Oh, Melbourne and Brisbane. I think, as Campo said, they're clearly Melbourne were eventually going to lose a game, and they looked to actually be in control of the game at half time. But full credit to Freo after a couple of disappointing losses, they were able to pull off that unlikely win. But I think Melbourne and Brisbane certainly have got the runs on the board.
You on the same page, Campo?
Yeah, don't disagree with that. Yep.
Also on the text line, Graham in Carnup, WA on 0437 774 774 says, hi team, the focus on North Melbourne seems a tad overboard. West Coast have lost games to similar sides by bigger margins, even though most of their team had a minimum of 11 to 12 premiership players running around each week. Why are they not the focus? I can guarantee you, Graham, in WA that the Eagles are facing immense scrutiny because it is a parochial two-team town. But I think the North Melbourne factor is that they haven't been competitive for a while. And the fact that a lot of their 22 probably wouldn't be playing for any other clubs, whilst the Eagles are technically rebuilding without having any young talent. So they don't quite have the list for where they're at, and North Melbourne are supposed to be on the incline and aren't really getting there.
I think the thing with North Melbourne is it's really important that they show some improvement because of the fact that they've had the number one, Jason Horn-Francis has been the number one draft pick, and you can't blame a young kid if he doesn't see any upward movement. Why would you stay there? So that's, I think, the scrutiny is on North because they have to show that they've got their house in order. Otherwise, they're going to spend longer down there because their good players are going to move.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, being in Melbourne as well, you're under a little bit more microscope than I'm sure no one in Perth's talking about North Melbourne. They're all talking about West Coast, and no different here. Everyone was talking about Ken Hinckley. So it's a difficult one, for North. I mean, I know David quite well, and it's a tough situation because externally that's where the pressure comes. I know supporters, but I think supporters somewhat understand, even though they want better performances and they want to see improvement, they sort of get it. It's the external stuff that causes more angst than anything, like David Noble having to come out and really defend some either misreportings or whatever. That just you don't need that as a coach. There's enough hard work during the week to try and get the players and the game plan and try and find improvement without having to come and do that. And even to see, Ben Amavi come out as well. I mean, you don't often see that. So, and to be fair, David Noble is a year and 10 rounds into it. So, you need some time. They're coming off a real low base.
You've been inside the four walls of a football club as a head coach at periods of time. What does it mean when you lose 3 members of your list management department ahead of the mid-season draft? Is that actually warning signs like most people are saying?
Yeah, it would depend. Once again, I don't know intimately why those guys have left. I've only read what you probably read, so I don't know that well. But, I mean, it's never ideal particularly heading into a... But, at the end of the day... David, no, he's been ahead of list management and recruiting and everything as well, so he'd be all over that stuff anyway. So it's not ideal. You know, if you're worrying about trying to top up your list in terms to help it, you know, at this point in time in the middle of the year, and it's going to be a bigger issue, then I think they got more issues to worry about in their list management than that. So, yeah, not ideal, but at the end of the day, I mean, people can pick and choose where they want to go to work, and that's what's happened.
Let's shift our focus back to the game that we saw this evening. Port Adelaide winners over the Bombers by 16 points, 9-12-66 to 6-14-50. It was great to hear from Connor Rosie earlier. Let's check in with the Bombers and see how they're feeling ahead of the bye. Liz Walsh is downstairs.
Thanks, Aaron. I'm here with Andy McGrath. Andy, a shame about the loss, but he's having some technical difficulties. No, he's all good. Sorry.